Welcome to Fear Coded, a podcast where we talk about media from the horror genre and take a queer reading of a single book, video game, film, podcast, or TV show to explore just how queer horror can be. This week, we dance a dark and twisted dance into witchcraft, coven political intrigue, and a divided Berlin as we discuss the 2018 remake of Suspiria, directed by Luca Guadagnino, and a screenplay by David Kajanik. I'm Marilee.
I'm Tyler.
I'm David.
And I'm Britt.
That's right. We had to invite a new performer to come and share this space with us, but only time will tell what her fate will be. Welcome Brittany Reinholz-Hobson from the 1001 by 1 podcast and the new podcast, The Owls Are Not What They Seem. Britt, welcome to Fear Coded.
Hello. Hi. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. For anyone who doesn't know me, my name is Britt. I am a host of a podcast called 1001 by 1, where we take movies out of the book 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. We analyze them, we discuss them, then we decide whether or not they should be in the book. I'm also starting a horror podcast called The Owls Are Not What They Seem. Yes, it's a Twin Peaks reference, but it's not actually about Twin Peaks.
Okay.
Because I just love Twin Peaks. I have a Twin Peaks tattoo. Like, it's just a big... I got it with my best friend. Yeah, no, we have matching Twin Peaks tattoos.
This is so perfect.
But in that, in The Owls Are Not What They Seem, I'm going to take like weird subgenres of horror, come up with definitions for them and tropes for them, and then take a couple movies that might be under that subgenre and bring on hosts to talk about them with me and see if they actually fit those subgenres or not. We have some really normal ones like folk horror and vampires and witches, but I also want to do weird ones like coming of rage and toxic masculinity ruins the party and Good for Her. So I love horror, so I just want to talk about it more.
Britt, that sounds
listen.
fantastic.
Thank you.
We love a Good for Her episode.
God,
so
Good for
we've
Her
had
is so fun.
Good for Her.
We've had many episodes that have turned into Good for Her episodes. So
Yeah. I don't know if they started. I don't know that they'd fit necessarily Britt's model. But,
No.
But by the end, we said Good for Her.
You know what? No, there are Good for Her movies can come out of nowhere. It's kind of like a secret witch film. All of a sudden you're like, oh, this is a Good for Her? I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
There's also Yikes for Her, which I also really enjoy because it's like, oh, no, maybe we shouldn't be going down this road, but I'm here for it, you know.
I'm into it. And Britt, I know you said that The Owls Are Not What They Seem is not specifically Twin Peaks, but I am wearing Laura Palmer right now on my chest.
Oh
and
my God.
I eventually am going to get a Twin Peaks tattoo, so I am all in on this pod.
You want the meanwhile hands, right?
Oh,
Yes, I
of
want
course.
the meanwhile.
That's incredible. I can't show you right now, but my best friend and I, who's in Chicago, we got, for my 35th birthday, I went to Chicago and we got the Twin Peaks with the red room, like curtains in it.
Love that.
I love it. It's so cute. And it's just on the back of my arm. And sometimes I'm like, oh, there we go. And people who know. People have come up and said, Twin Peaks. And I say, we're friends.
Yes.
I love that.
Definitely.
I love that. Tyler and Marilee still have not yet gotten Twin Peaks on the radar, so I still have not seen any.
Listen,
but
there are only so many weeks, okay?
Yes.
Hopefully this
so
year...
many horror media.
Yes.
so
little
much horror
time.
media that
Yeah.
I have no exposure to whatsoever.
Listen, we have unshackled ourselves from the concept of themes this year, so hopefully we'll have a chance to like really get a Twin Peaks in there soon.
And we
Fair.
may
Yeah,
or
which
may
is
not be having a favorites period of time where not necessarily themed,
that's right.
but we will just be kind of rolling out the things that we love. So you never know.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Now, we don't have themes, but this is our second dance movie in a row.
Yes.
So I do want to say that our capacity to not do themes is being tested here in January.
It's hard. You
It's hard.
find
It's
those
hard.
like the connective tissue between movies. I find myself watching a lot of films that somehow are connected, even if I don't mean to. I'm like, oh, these are all body horror where you have like really intense compound fractures. Great. That's why this is. These are all the movies that
compound
I want
fracture.
to watch.
I would love Can we have a compound fracture month?
Yes.
Can we?
I mean,
David,
that
no
sounds great.
themes. No themes.
Britt, do a compound fracture episode. I'm there.
Absolutely. Okay, great. We'll just do a whole
all I want.
4 episodes on compound fracture movies. Sounds great.
Broken bones. But wait, I want to talk about 1000 by 1 as well, because listen, the 1000 by 1 list is no slouch.
It's bonkers.
And there's some stuff on that list.
Oh.
Is the thing.
Oh, yes, there is. it's funny because it started out just kind of as actually Adam and his friend Ian started it. And after Ian passed away, Adam put it away for a while and then invited Joey and I to become a part of the show. And it's our 3rd year doing it. And it's been an absolute blast. And I've seen a lot of movies that I didn't anticipate ever watching, you know, like Night of the Hunter, I didn't expect to watch, and it was incredible. And I'm so glad that I saw it.
Yeah, I love that movie.
It's killer, right? But then there are also other movies that I'm like, we can do away with this. Like Get Carter is a bad movie, and it doesn't need to be in the book. There's also a ton of problematic movies in the book, which we will cover and then discuss why it's problematic. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
You need a strong mental health day for some of those. I think is what it is. Even the AFI 100 is a little bit hard to get through.
It is. There are a lot of movies that I'm like, we have many conversations about how, okay, is this good because it's actually good, or are we just putting it up on a pedestal because it's the first of its kind? And being the first of its kind doesn't mean it's the best. You know, I think of The Day the Earth Stood Still, which is techno horror. It's like one of the first techno horrors out there. It's not very good. It has a really great like slide from a tank, which I didn't know they could slide like that. I think it was probably an error, but I'm never going to watch that movie again, even though I love the subgenre of techno horror. And I appreciate that it came from that, but we can cut it.
But like, I came from my mom, and we should cut her too. So
That is on theme for this episode, David.
Absolutely.
Girl, that is on theme for this episode.
Speaking of this episode, we wanted to thank all of the bats in our belfry for being a part of our amazing community by supporting our fear-coded Patreon. So thank you to Will, Knight of Cups, Blake, Puckish Rogue, Tyler, Britt, John, Doug, Jacob, Alyssa, and Maureen. Now, before we turn our dreams into blood-curdling nightmares, I wanted to check in with my co-host and our guest to see how things are going for them in the landscape of horrors that our real world has to offer. What's making y'all scared, or what is making you feel prepared? Britt, as our guest, we got to start with you.
I was so ready to come in with a prepared one today, but I'm actually feeling scared because next week I am surprising my best friend Katie, who I got the Twin Peaks tattoo with, in Chicago for her birthday. And we're going to see Labyrinth in the cinemas for its 40th anniversary.
Sick.
Nice.
That's
But
awesome.
I also
Incredible.
decided like a day ago that I wanted to embroider us Labyrinth sweatshirts for the event.
You fool.
And I haven't even started yet. That is on the docket for today. So we'll see if it happens. I don't think it will, but I'm going to try. I got little, like I want to do the little knockers. And just little, so maybe I can get it done.
I believe in you. You got this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, but you can't do that on a plane, right? They're not going to let you take on an
You can.
embroidering
You can
tool
do that.
on the plane. Oh, you can.
I
Okay.
embroidered the entire way to England this summer, so.
Well then, you've got a flight to Chicago.
Yeah.
You can get this done on a flight.
And you're on the
Come
West Coast, so that's already like a 3+ hour flight, right?
Yes, it is. It's 3.5 hours, so which is like nothing after you've
You
traveled.
can
in
embroider
America.
some balls.
Yeah, it'll be great.
Exactly.
Who doesn't want
This
to
is-
embroider walls?
What a fantastic thing to do for your friend's birthday. Not only to surprise them and go see them, but to do something. You must both enjoy Labyrinth. I mean,
We love Labyrinth. We love David Bowie, so we're very cool kids. And my sister embroidered me merch for my for the podcast for Christmas, and I was so touched by it that I was like, I need to embroider something for Katie's birthday. So I really was inspired by my sister, who
I love that.
will listen to
wonderful.
this. She's lovely. So.
I love that. Yeah, I've already admitted that I haven't seen Twin Peaks, but I'm about to make a thesis statement. I don't know that the people who love Labyrinth and the people who love Twin Peaks are disparate. I think that Venn diagram is purple. True?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, Marilee's going to offer, maybe there's a little bit of division.
I think that here's the thing. I didn't watch Labyrinth when I was younger. I came to it as an older person. So I'm not crazy about Labyrinth, but
Fair.
I am crazy about Twin Peaks. So I do think that like it's similar, but
it's
I
a
don't
little,
think it's a
yeah.
complete overlap.
Okay.
It
I'm
could.
doing it,
There's
listeners, with my fingers.
There's a little bit of some
Yeah.
space on the sides.
Yeah, no,
This is-
I think Labyrinth is an incredible movie. I'm just not driven
you-
insane by it. You know what I mean?
When you watch it when you're 8, it is kind of life-changing.
Absolutely. I used to wear those blouses that Sarah wears and the vest. God, such a good look.
Yeah,
I
Tyler,
feel
me
like that
too.
look is coming back too.
It is in my household, that's for sure. It never goes away.
Did it ever go away to begin with?
No, never.
Never.
Yeah.
Never.
Well, I have to say I am feeling prepared today.
Tyler, what makes you feel
Yay.
prepared today?
So I said previously, new year, new me, right? 2026, fresh start. Well,
Yeah.
I am going to make myself a hypocrite just very briefly because I have gone deep into my past and pulled out from the abyss something that I used to play about 10 years ago, which is the massively, what does MMO stand for anymore? Massively multiplayer
online game.
RPG, Star Wars The Old Republic.
Oh, wow. We Old Republicing.
Yes. So I have tricked Marshall into playing the Old Republic for me, which
Right.
for anyone who is not aware of what that is, it is a game that, much like World of Warcraft or Final Fantasy XIV, you play in a series of worlds with other people. And the unique thing about the Old Republic game is that this came from BioWare, who made Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic 2, and is meant to be kind of like a distant third sequel to those games. And you get to play a series of different classes, which each have their own stories. So you could either be on like the good guy side with the Republic, or you could be on the bad guy side with the Sith Empire. And I am on the Sith Empire side as an Imperial agent.
Wow. You're that sexy lady from Andor.
I am kind of that sexy lady from Andor, yeah. So you can actually buy that fit in the market for real people money.
Well, there's Tyler, I'm here to tell you, if you do not already own that, there is nothing stopping me from PayPaling you whatever this amount is. I will do it. I will do it while we are on record.
It even comes with like a sexy little cape moment. Like,
oh my god!
I'm here for a cape moment.
I am very into it. I have actually not purchased it yet because currently in the storyline, I am doing like a double agent thing with the Galactic Republic. And so it wouldn't really make sense to wear my Imperial uniform when I'm trying to kind of seem like I'm on the Republic side here.
Okay,
but
fair.
once we move on past that, or once we get into endgame territory, and as we all know, in any major video game, the real endgame is fashion. You want to make your character look as fashionable as possible.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Absolutely cash in on that PayPal offer, David, because I want to look like a cunty little fascist.
Yes.
But I'm also kind of planning to have her be kind of like I'm disillusioned by the Empire and the Republic. So we'll see how things go.
Yeah. I love that.
I
love that so much.
So
Tyler.
it's not the best online game of all time, but it is fun, and you can play for free. So I'm into that.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Oh, it's free. That's cool.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so
That's cool.
you
I
can
mean,
pay money if you want to, and that like increases like your XP gains and stuff. But otherwise, I am feeling pretty happy with that, and yeah, I'm having a good time. Star Wars is fun to dive into from time to time. Our friends at Distant Echoes, I'm sure will agree with me on that. And yeah, so I'm enjoying that, and I'm feeling prepared. What about you, David? Are you feeling prepared or scared today?
You know, I guess I'm feeling prepared. It's also video game related. You know what? I'm a little scared though because I haven't told Marilee about this.
Oh no!
And I don't know how the reaction will go when I say this. But just yesterday, I platinumed Hades for the PS5. I have been playing it kind of nonstop to the point that I was like, I need to watch this movie for the podcast. And I was like, I could just stop having a podcast and just play Hades for the rest of my life.
I was thinking about that with the Old Republic. I was just like, I have to do the notes. I have to read this stuff. I have to watch this movie. And I'm just like, yeah, but I'm also almost done with this story on Tatooine, and it's really boring here. I totally get it.
Yeah.
It's a super giant game. So I have been there before. I was there for Bastion. I was there for Transistor. I found both of them forcing me to use other weapons to be intolerable. Just let me swing a sword. And Hades was like, David, we hear you. Like, we hear you. And if you just want to use one weapon, you boring ass person, you should just do it.
One weapon
yes.
forever.
Do you roll a human in D&D? Yes, I do. I'm a boring ass person. Like, what do you want?
Oh my god, you and my husband. My husband will always play a human every single time, but I also always play an elf. So he's like, "Are you going to do something different?" I'm like, "No, I'm an elf. I'm an elf. Maybe a tiefling, but usually an elf.
I'm cute is the thing.
Yeah, no, that's really cute. The audience doesn't know this because I was very careful to be completely silent because I didn't want to blow out the audio, but I was celebrating so fucking hard.
Marilee was
so
dancing
thrilled.
the Volk as in celebration. Like it was
100%.
truly something else.
Yeah, I was like on the floor writhing. It was a whole thing. This is the best news I've ever had.
Yeah, so I probably will end up following Marilee's recommendation to pick up Hades 2 at some point in time.
Hades is so good. Oh my God.
If I recall correctly, when it came out, Marilee's feedback was, it's like Hades, but more and better. And I was like, well, I enjoyed that, so why wouldn't I want more and better?
Yeah, no, so like the combat is so good. And I will say that there was a patch that was done after the game was released that improved the ending of the story significantly.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Because there were some problems. There was a lot of fan complaints of like, and they took that into consideration and they addressed it. And now the ending is much smoother and better.
Yeah.
So I think you're gonna have a really good time. This is the greatest. I'm on cloud 9. This is so good. I love it when people like the stuff that I love.
That's so nice.
If I had a critique, and so this maybe worries me for 2 as well, is that I think the story was good for Hades, but the gameplay loop was so good that I was like, shut the fuck up, I need to do another run. So I would just sort of blaze through dialogue, which is not usually my way of playing games.
I go back and forth on both Hades and Hades 2. Sometimes I'm like, oh God, I got to get through this run just so I can go talk to my girlfriend. And then other times I'm like, stop talking to me. I need to get out there. I got to save these people. I'm obsessed with Hades and Hades 2 as well. So this is very exciting for me, even though I had no idea it was coming. So
I didn't know it was coming either. This is so much.
Nope.
This is so good.
I had this from Marilee. It was a Christmas sale, and I just picked it up. I don't know if Tyler thought maybe we had it for free. Maybe I just missed that. But I did have to. I don't know. I spent $6.
Worth
No.
it.
Well, it was free
well.
on Game Pass. It was free on Xbox Game Pass.
Got
And
it.
because I also bought it for $6, and I started playing Hades, but then my ADHD brain was just like, "This is really fun. You're gonna take a break for about 10 minutes and then forget about it."
Yeah.
God,
Come
that's so
back
real.
eventually, Tyler. I think you'll have fun again. I will say, I got kind of good. I got kind of good. So towards the end, to get a platinum, I needed to talk to my father, and he will not show up if you win the run. And so I just had to like go into a level and stand on a spike trap until I died, so that I could trigger some dialogue.
Yeah.
options.
Listen. I'm just gonna give this warning to you because again, you just said you were really good at the game. While the gameplay in Hades 2 is completely different, you're gonna have to like learn new mechanics and weapons and everything like that, new boons, all of that stuff. There's a lot of carryover, and I like to play with God mode on because I don't like losing. And I also think it makes narrative sense for a god to get more powerful. I just think like, it's really smart gameplay. Here's the thing, I was too good at this game, especially with God mode on, that I really, like the first time I was playing through, I really blazed through and moved too quickly for like the narrative to make sense. So just be careful, be aware. That is a thing that can happen. You can.
I think I'm going to take a little time before Hades 2 for sure. I got plenty of other things on the burner, but it was fun. It was a blast. I wanted to report to Marilee. This doesn't feel as big of a sin as when we had Doug on as a guest and I admitted that we had watched so much RuPaul's Drag Race, but it feels almost as close as a sin as that was. I think the thing that saved it is that it Marilee, I picked this up after our last podcast recording. I did this 72 hours in a week.
Yeah, you're playing Hades.
This is all I was doing. This was all. What else
Hades
was there to do?
and Suspiria. That's it. That was
Hades,
the whole week.
Hades, Suspiria, and then we watched Steel Magnolias in the middle of the week as well.
What a flavor sensation.
Because Mike said, let's weep. Let's just weep at the television.
Sometimes you need a good weep.
Sometimes you do.
And it made me think, like, God, I got to get back. I got to get Are You My Mother back because I've got to talk about Maylin in podcast form. I've got to talk about Sally Fields.
You could really just do like a 4-episode special on Steel Magnolias.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at today. Marilee, round us out. Bring us home. How are you feeling this week? Scared or prepared?
I'm scared, guys.
You're joining Britt. You're both on the left side of my Zoom screen, so there's some sort of like leftward pull for the scare.
Well, they're both on the bottom of my Zoom screen, so it's an L. It's an L for us today.
Okay, it's an L for us.
It's an L for us today.
Merrily, it's an L for us today. What's making you feel scared?
For the second time this school year, my niece and nephew had lice.
That is scary. That might be the scariest thing that has ever actually been said on this podcast.
Here's the thing: the kids aren't even in fucking school right now.
What the fuck?
They went to like the park and also like had a birthday party with other children on the same day. And somehow they were exposed to lice. And here's the thing. I babysat the night that they were exposed to lice, because like again, it's like a 3-day incubation period or something, some other thing, and so like I'm probably fine, and I've done all of the things that you're supposed to do to make sure that you're fine, but I'm still so fucking paranoid about it, and it's just such a pain in the ass again because this is the second time this school year where I've had to like wash all of my shit and like do all of this nonsense, and I'm so tired of it, my friends.
And even the idea of lice makes your head itch. You said lice, and I was like, oh God, my head. Yeah. Oh no.
Oh yeah, no. I like as soon as I heard, I like washed my hair immediately, and then that night I did like this is another thing that you could do apparently if you have if you suspect that you have lice. If you do like a hair mask and like leave-in conditioner, you can smother the lice.
Great, good to know.
Yeah, and also it's just good for your hair. But here's the thing: you have to like really thoroughly comb out your scalp and like get it out in case it's there. And I have extremely thick hair, and so I'm worried that I didn't comb get to the my scalp good enough, and I'm so paranoid, and I'm so tired of this. I hate. Why are children so lice? I don't know, man.
I don't even, because barely when I was at the airport for the holidays, when I was preparing to fly down to Florida, I saw this huge herd of families who were all traveling together, and they had very small children. And then one dude was just letting his toddler run around and then lay down flat on the floor of the airport.
That's a terrible idea.
It's
terrible. It's a terrible idea for all people.
Yeah, listen,
and then they were all running
just
into each
do
other,
that.
and then the parents were just like, "Oh, so cute," and it's like, no,
So cute.
this is how we get COVID-2 Electric Boogaloo. Like,
You know, lice is one of the things we studied at Epi. There was lice, and then the mysterious stomach-borne illness from the potluck. It's almost always the egg salad.
That'll do it. Yeah.
That'll do it.
Anyway, I'm scared and itchy.
understandably so. And now, so am I.
Me too.
Sorry, gang.
Well, great. Then you know what? We're all in the right psychological mindset for today's focus of conversation, because today we are talking about the 2018 remake of Suspiria from director Luca Guadagnino, based on the original 1977 film of the same name by Dario Argento. The original film is considered one of the most influential films in the horror genre, and itself is based on a Thomas de Quincey poem/essay. I was not able to read this, but could not tell if it was poem or essay because it is listed in both ways many times.
It's lyrical.
Okay, great. It is prose, let's say.
Yes.
Called Lavana and Our Ladies of Sorrow, from his collection, Suspiria de Profundis.
The film is about Susie, an American woman who enrolls at a prestigious dance academy in Berlin, which is run by a coven of witches. The coven, like Berlin, is in a state of division over its leadership, and Susie's natural gifts make her a prime vessel for the coven's leader, Mother MARKOS.
The 2018 Suspiria was, as Guadagnino described it, a disaster at the box office, and contemporary critics' response was polarized. The film has become something of a cult hit since then, with recent viewings more complimentary to the film and its aims. So, what's everyone's experience with the 2018 film Suspiria? Britt, as our guest, let's start with you.
So I do want to start out by saying that Argento's Suspiria is in my Letterboxd top 4. I love it so much. It is the only movie that I know where the acting means nothing. It's the least important part of the movie. So I actually got to go see a screening of this with some friends who were working for Amazon at the time, which I live in Seattle. Basically, everybody works for Amazon, unfortunately. But so it was a private showing. And I was pretty, I was like, yeah, I'll go. It's free. But I was very apprehensive because I love the original Suspiria so much.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it was, but it was one of the most incredible theater experiences I have ever had. And it wasn't even because the people around me were into it as much as I was. I was just transfixed by this film. I also saw it with my best friend Katie, who has the Twin Peaks tattoo. And the two of us were just like, what the fuck did we just see? So I had an incredible time with this the first time I saw it. And it was just so cool and fun. And yeah, I loved it.
I love that.
Have you revisited Argento's
Suspiria? Yeah. I did an
then?
Argento podcast a year ago with my friend Mike at Cinemas. I chose to do that one. And I'm able to keep these two movies in two separate areas because to me, they're not the same thing. And that's why it works. I think it's the way to do a remake if you're going to do it, personally.
I very much considered checking out the original. And so one of the things I do whenever we're looking at something that has been remade is I'll try to do some research. I just went to Reddit, which, whatever.
There's lots of stuff on Reddit. I mean, some of it's successful, but there's still some gems.
There's lots of stuff. That is correct. But there's lots of stuff. And I got the sense from some people very much like you, art can be considered in different spaces by different people. And then some people who are like, don't do this. It will ruin your experience and you'll never have children and you'll hate yourself forever. And eventually I was just like, Hades, I have no time. So
yeah, fair. Hades is more important right now. So,
but I did read a lot about how colorful it was. And I do think that this stands desperately apart from that because this film has made a very unique stylistic decision around color.
Yep.
And it is not more color, which it sounds like the Argento. I am familiar with Argento just because I haven't seen this.
Truly one of the most beautiful films I've ever seen. It's in Technicolor. It's just incredible. Just, God, the colors are absolutely bonkers. And the choice that they made to make such a 70s muted aesthetic in this, I think, was the correct one. Because that is the first way to differentiate yourself from the original, highly lauded Suspiria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But otherwise, I had never heard of this before we put it on the schedule. Truly and honestly, this was, I never heard of the original. I mean, I knew Argento, but more like how I knew that there are filmmakers in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even think, well, no, I've seen something from Argento. I've seen Inferno. For whatever reason, I was dating a film student. That's all I can say. I did not like it, but I don't seem to be alone. I'm interested in talking about this movie. This is my first Guadagnino experience.
Okay.
And so I know that our guy has directed some other things. Most, probably biggest recently was Challengers. And that's on the watch list, but I don't know when the energy is right for Challengers because I don't know what I'm walking into.
Tennis and sex, I think, is...
I don't like either of those things very much, barely. I like Zendaya a fair bit, but if she's not on screen, I'll probably be like, the audience is asking where's Zendaya.
That's so fair.
So I am excited to talk this through. It's a very deep film, so I am excited. I think there's a lot for us to mine here.
Yeah.
Marilee, what about you? Had you seen this before?
No, so I hadn't seen it before. Here's the thing. I am very familiar with the original movie. It is one of my brother's favorites. Here is my thing. I have a really hard time getting into giallo films, to my brother's never-ending chagrin, because he keeps being like, it's so good, and it's like, I'm so sorry. They recorded all of their lines and then ADR'd everything. It's just a nightmare for me to watch this. Mm-hmm. So my brother loves this movie. He's constantly being like, you should really give it another chance. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was born with hate in my heart. So it's one of the things where I know that someday I'm gonna have to get over myself and like really give it an honest crack, but simply not today, friends.
Here's the thing, though. Life's too short to force yourself to watch something you're not interested in. So I
Thank
actually
you.
really respect the fact that you know yourself well enough to say, it's not for me. There are other things we can enjoy. So I, as a hardcore lover of Giallo and Suspiria, I get it. You're good.
Thank you. I really appreciate. But here's the thing: I know that it's really good, and I bet if I got over myself, I probably would at least find something that I could enjoy in it, if not the actual film itself. But God, I'm just there. The world makes me so tired. I simply don't know that I could do homework.
No, that's fair. And if it feels like homework, don't do it. Not right now, at least. You've got time.
Don't do it.
We live in a strange time where hate watching things is considered like normal behavior, or it's encouraged because of like TikTok and people being able to talk shit about something. And I'm just like, we're only here once. Life is too short.
Yeah.
Don't force yourself to view something just to participate in the conversation about it for clout.
Yeah.
Like if you hate it, walk on out of there.
Yeah.
Hit the
Walk
bricks.
Yeah.
Just don't do it. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
What about you, Tyler?
Yeah. What about you?
So I saw this when it first came out, like back in 2018. I don't remember if it was like simulcast from movie theater onto Prime or if there was a period in between, but I did watch it on Prime. And I remember thinking like, boy, that was a movie that I just watched. So I was a little bit like how you were, Britt, where it was just like, I just had an experience and I don't know what to make of it. The trailers, however, were the thing that really encouraged me to watch it. So this happened with Black Swan. I just watched the trailer for the thing and I was just like, okay, I'm in it. Like there's this stark synth coming from Tom York's score that he's doing that's kind of backing what's happening and all of these nightmarish visuals, because this is a movie that really, I think, has its strength in the visuals. And you know, to see also that this was being done by Luca Guadagnino, who had just done Call Me by Your Name, which was a movie that I really enjoyed. I was just like, okay, I'm in it. I'm ready for this. Let's go. Tom York's first film score was really just kind of like icing on the cake for that, because I really enjoy Radiohead and Tom York, and I think he's a very talented musician. And then I see this movie, and it's just like I have such extremely complicated feelings and ideas around it, where there's just so much. This movie is just chock full of things, and they are kind of begging for you to really dig into them. And so I'm really excited to do that today.
Okay, and the Tom York score, good for you?
So I think the score kind of works better, like almost separately. Like I think it kind of like there's some moments in there where like the music really works to provide like this aura of dread. But then the songs where Tom York is singing, I'm just like, well, this is just like Radiohead. I'm gonna listen to this just like when I'm vibing out.
Totally.
You know.
Totally agree on that.
So I think sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't totally work. I think when it doesn't work, though, it's kind of interesting because there's so many things going on in this movie that seem to purposely not work. Like it's just like to add to kind of like the weirdness of it, the artificiality of it, the surrealness of it. When something goes wrong and it's interesting, or if it's just done in a way that makes me feel conflicted about it, I'm just like, is this actually supposed to be intentional? So I'm into it. I find it's a very experimental film where the highs are very interesting and the lows are just as interesting.
Now, you all have watched Mark Guadagnino films. Is this house style for our guy? Is he just sort of like, I'm gonna put my foot on the scale to make it read a little weird, or is this singular?
It depends on the movie, I think. I'm not a huge fan. This is my personal favorite of Guadagnino films. I haven't really connected to a lot of the other ones as much as I have connected with this one. And I think it's, my background is as a theater performer. I've done ballet. I'm not a ballerina, my God. But I've studied ballet and modern for years. I am very connected with things that tend to have these kind of themes. I also love folklore and witches. So like everything about this film is basically tailor-made for me, which I appreciate. Guadagnino was like, there's a girl in Seattle named Britt who is going to love this film. It's all for her. And I appreciate that. But I think that he's actually a very interesting filmmaker because he can do so many different things. Sometimes you get a director where every single film feels like it's in the same world, and that is not Guadagnino. nothing.
Yeah, okay.
Nothing is connected, in my opinion. And I think that just goes to show that he's very talented. It just depends on what works for you.
I think that's the most Guadagnino-like thing that this film does is like the very deliberate nature of the shots.
Yeah.
Because he's a very deliberate director. And so like a lot of the times the camera will linger a little while and just to make sure that you really understand like this is what the shot's about. And I think that other than that, it's very eclectic.
Mm-hmm.
Britt, it's wonderful to have your particular expertise here because I joked that we were bailing on themes and then picked 2 dance movies. But outside of the fact that there are 2 types of dance in these films is a little bit like saying both films had lighting in them because ballet and the dance that we are seeing here, in slightly interpretive, I guess you would call it also like neoclassical?
It's modern, I would say. Like this is very much in a time where modern was coming into its into what it has become.
Yeah, this is not Swan Lake.
No.
Just like hardcore. That bodies are moving is the only thing that keeps these 2 grounded together.
Well, that's such the interesting thing about like the fact that there is ballet in this because of course all of these people had the ballet technique in order to do modern, and they still use the French terms for a lot of the dance moves that they do, but it's so much freer and so much more about the community, whereas I would say ballet is more about your lines and the restriction of what you can do within the parameters of where you're dancing. But yeah, we'll get more into that.
It was also wild to know that David Green had tried to do a remake of Suspiria with Natalie Portman. I didn't dive too deep into this, but I was gagged gooped that like Natalie Portman's name was even near something else with dance. Like, well, you did what? You one is enough, girl.
Yeah, I'm so glad that movie doesn't exist.
Yeah, you and everyone else. No one seemed to like this happening. But then I did read an interview with him being like, it was really a money thing. And I was like, I don't know that it was. I think it was that everyone hated this thing.
No, thank you. Well, this came out at a when the new Halloween movies were coming out. So it's kind of such an interesting example of remakes coming out at the same time and 2 directors' different visions for what those remakes should look like.
VVV, different, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, Britt, I am so happy that we could have you on and your expertise because I think we're going to have a really great conversation and we're going to kickstart that with our discussion of themes. So our first theme of today's episode is mommy issues, believe it or not. The film's mythology is based on the existence of 3 mothers, first invented by Thomas de Quincey in Lavanna and Our Ladies of Sorrow. These are companions to the Roman goddess of childbirth, Lavanna. The mothers are Lacrimarum, Our Lady of Tears, Suspiriorum, Our Lady of Sighs, and Tenebrarum, Our Lady of Darkness. MARKOS and Blanc also carry roles of motherhood, but as described by film critic Matt Goldberg, that motherhood is layered in abuse and manipulation. What did you all make of the themes of motherhood in this film? Britt, I am very interested to hear, so let's start with you.
I think that motherhood in general is very important in witch folklore. So I think it was so important that they brought it into this film, whether it's in a nurturing way, because there are witches who are considered nurturing mothers and matrons that will help those around them. But it's also the antithesis of motherhood. It is the destruction of what it stands for. And I think in this movie, there is a destruction of motherhood to a point. And it is very much about the cycle of abuse, but also breaking that wheel towards the end of the movie. I don't know if we want to get it, like, that seems a little early to get into it, but something happens at the end where Susie takes it upon herself to remove herself and other people from this cycle of abusive motherhood. And I'm like, yeah, I'm here for you. Good for you. Good for her. Maybe this is also a good for her film in that moment. Really stylistically and very bloody way to do it. But I think this movie does not exist if we don't have these themes of motherhood and how they can really harm you if you are not aware of what's happening. And I think it's kind of wild, like the way the coven works together and how the coven is just carte blanche accepting MARKOS for whoever and whatever she is saying, where, you know, like that happens a lot, where people just say, this is our matron is saying this is what we do, so we will continue to do it. And we see that not only in the coven, but also in the Mennonite family, you know, just around their dying mother, making sure that she's okay. That's where I go with motherhood on this one.
Well, and it's interesting because it almost ends up being a deferral to authority.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that because the film, especially for the next theme that Tyler's going to get into, because the film spends so much time also drawing your attention to the changing nature of fascism in Germany, it's so easy to be like, well, it is kind of about motherhood, but it's really more about the authoritative mother, and not necessarily the mother who cares, until Blanc in the third act, I guess we would say, sort of has a changing way of looking at one of the characters. But reading so many of the contemporary reviews about this, it was like, this is the best film about mothers. And I was like, okay, I don't know about that. I when I mentioned Steel Magnolias earlier, like, I don't know that this is the best film about mothers. I
think there are a few too many themes in this movie for it to be the best film about mothers. Like this film is chock full of themes that I think maybe, even as a person who gave this like a 4.5 star rating because I love it, probably could have cut back on a couple of those themes and focused on maybe 2 or 3 instead of having 8. I just don't think there's any way this can be the best depiction of motherhood we've ever seen.
But I think there's tons of feminism in this.
Yes.
There is tons of women empowerment. And I think that sometimes critics, and us, because we're critics of films, we discuss things, we sometimes cheat and take the shortcut of saying, oh, it's motherhood, when it's women. And like, just let women be characters without necessarily tying it to motherhood.
It's one of my least favorite tropes, when somebody arbitrarily becomes a mother or their whole life is around being a mother, because I'm like, it's incredible. Like, I have so much respect for mothers. My sister is a mother. My mom is obviously a mother. You know, these are people I respect, and I love the fact that they chose that for themselves. I am not a mother. I chose not to be a mother. I'm never going to be a mother. And so I just get really frustrated when you have a female character or a person with a uterus that they've decided becoming this parental figure is going to be the most important part of their life, because it's not. And it doesn't have to be. Stop projecting that onto us all, people.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly. Love that you brought that up.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a line in the film, in the scene with like the guy character and Sarah, who she's trying to be like, no, there are witches here. It's so filled with love. And he's like, okay, but like love and control are like frequently share houses. And I think that that's a really important idea to keep in mind for this theme, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, totally. And I think like, I really love what ends up happening with Madame Blanc. And she becomes kind of like a maternal sort of figure to Susie later on in the movie. I think from like a critical and technical perspective on the film itself, I think I would have liked more time to let that kind of stew. But because this stew is so full, like you said, Britt, there's 8 themes in this movie where we could probably have condensed it or cut it down to like 2 or 3. I think that moment would have worked really, really well for me. As it is, I think like it's a little bit nebulous. I think there's some interesting visual metaphors going on to kind of illustrate that, but as far as like everything goes, I think like the mother theme is so important in this movie, and I think we're doing a wonderful job, you know, talking about that. But I just wish that this movie would cut down on some of the noise and really let that sing, and because I think that is really a foundational thematic part of this film. And so again, really glad that we're getting to talk about it. I just wish like part of what makes this film so much is that there is so much, and they're all trying to claim, you know, priority. Like I'm this. And I think this is the core. This is really like the heart of the film. And so more of this, please. But, you know, we'll definitely get into that as we get into our plot breakdown.
It's so interesting that you bring up Blanc as like a mothering figure and how we'd like to see that a little bit more. I don't see her as a mothering figure to Susie in particular. I think maybe it tries to go in that direction, but I feel like Blanc is pulled to Susie for totally different reasons. And that's where that actually is what brings about what happens at the end of the film.
I I think what's possible is that we can read Blanc's actions as being noble towards Susie, but in the end, remember that it is constantly a power struggle between Blanc and Marcos.
No.
And ergo, I want to do it the right way is just, if I wait long enough, my opponent will be dead. And that is, I mean, listen, no one here is going to say if Tilda Swinton was like, David, I will be your new mother, I would be like, accepted.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll
Thank you.
stop the
If you
podcast. We won't even be on hiatus. The podcast is over. I have found my mother. It is Tilda Swinton. You're so fucking weird. That's perfect. And to Marilee's question of like, she is being the sort of leader of disciples in a way that you want to emulate her. So that in that way, yeah, some of it's there, but I kind of agree with Britt. The motivations of like, nobody's got great motivations in this film except for maybe Susie. And maybe Sarah.
I think Sarah is the only like really noble person here. She just wants to dance, and she's so concerned about her friends and the company. But she just simply is here, and R.I.P. girl.
Maybe this is the January theme, is like, everyone's kind of terrible.
Everyone's trash.
Because Black Swan, we didn't really have a hero. Everyone was kind of bad. And here, kind of everyone's kind of bad.
Except for Sarah. I'll go 10 toes down on this. My baby girl has done nothing wrong.
I don't think Olga did anything wrong either.
That's true.
Yeah.
No, because Olga, she spoke truth to power.
She was defiant.
That was the right thing to do. It just
did not work out for her.
No.
Yeah, read the room.
Oh man. Well, God, that scene. Well, I am now going to do something very difficult and try and say this German word that David has put in. I'm going to rely on my 2 years of German and Duolingo.
Let's do it.
To try and get me through this. So it's Vergangenheitsbewältigung.
Yes.
Oh, wow. Well done.
That round of applause.
Good job,
I had
Tyler.
to practice it like 6 times. And I kept on reading it while we were having the discussion about the previous theme. Vergangenheitsbewältigung is translated to mean, now I'm just showing off.
Yeah.
You really are.
Good for you.
It's not French, so calm down.
German, you know what? I took a lot of years of German and I sang in German many times. Like,
God,
good job.
She can sing, she can dance. After all, miss, this is France.
No, it's German.
It's Berlin. Fuck.
Well, this word is translated to mean a struggle to overcome the past and is about looking at the post-1945 German cultural reflection and reconciliation from the rise and rule of the fascist Nazi Party. It is both a historical reflection and a rejection of Nazi ideology marked by militarism, expansion, nihilism, and genocide. That conflict is made manifest in the internal struggle of the coven and the abuse of power that MARKOS engages in. To further illustrate this theme, the film is set in 1977 Berlin during the backdrop of the hijacking of Lufthansa Flight 181 and the imprisoning of Marxist Red Army faction, or RAF, members. How did this parallel theme work for us?
So I'm going to be honest. I think reading this as you speak along to it, Tyler, I'm like, God, this is brilliant. This is like deep fucking art. But the real truth of the matter is it works a little better on paper than it ended up working in the final product of the film. In that I think that me now doing analysis and doing discussion about this, there's so much to pull from here. There's so much to talk about in a divided Germany. There is so much to look at in the cultural changes in the way that art manifested itself in the 60s and 70s in Germany, especially when it came to addressing the fascist roots. The key dance, Volk, is about fascism. Like, all of this is there. But it's a little bit more there with my buddies having a beer about the film afterwards than it was in the moment because, to Britt's point earlier, you're making soup with so many things in it that I can't even see the broth anymore. And so if it had just been motherhood and this sort of reconciliation with fascism, I think maybe I could have found all this a little bit better. But I am glad that it's here, and I do think that it is a big thing that Guadagnino cared about to include in this film.
I had a very So first off, if people listening have not looked into the fall of 1977 in Germany, it's really fascinating and very important history. So please look into it because you're not going to get it from this movie.
No.
They are not going
That's
to
right.
spoon feed it to you. And I do kind of think that might be the point. Most of the time when we are hearing about the things that are happening in the fall of 1977, it's in the background of scenes, especially with the Coven. And we learned later on in the movie that the Coven during the Nazi regime, they went underground. They did not do anything to help. They just extricated themselves from the situation. And to me, everything that Blanc is doing with Volk even, which is an incredible, beautiful dance, it's also performative because actually none of what's happening in Germany affects them whatsoever. This movie is not about a coven trying to take back power from the patriarchy outside of them. It's the power struggle within themselves. So the fact that we only hear about these things happening in the background, I personally, on this last viewing, I feel like that's on purpose because the Coven actually doesn't care. The Coven actually, like, bombs are going off outside and they're sitting around smoking and drinking wine at dinner, which is like, that looks like such a party. I want to be in it. Like, that sounds great. But
Truly.
But they really don't. They absolutely don't care. I mean, we see their compliance when they all agree to have MARKOS stay because that's just what the power has always been. So for me, this did actually work because I think that was the point. But it took me a couple watches to actually come to that conclusion. So I think it could have been a little bit clearer, but it still works for me.
Yeah, and I think honestly having a movie that requires or has like a demand from its audience to really like put work into it, I think that's very brave in this day and age because a lot of these movies these days are spoon-fed to you. But it reminds me of like other surreal films like the works of David Lynch. You know, obviously we're big Twin Peaks fans. 3 out of the 4 of us eventually, David, will get to watch some. But
one day.
One day. But I think like it really struck me the similarities between these two works because this is a very surreal, very dream-like and nightmarish film. A lot of it feels so like kind of alien and cold and isolated in a way that feels so unreal. And I appreciate that. And I feel like that's a nice sort of DNA line back to the original Suspiria, which is also very dreamlike and surreal.
Yes.
And then we also look at, like, I think our most famous American surrealist in film is David Lynch. And so it's natural, I feel, to kind of do a comparison between these two things.
Totally.
Lynch also created very bold visuals in his works. He created a lot of very difficult plot lines, if you could even really call it that, with some of these movies, where it's kind of something meant to be experienced and not necessarily something that you like process and digest in the same way that we would for, I don't know, like another movie like The Hunt for Red October.
Yeah.
I don't know why that's a random pick, but still, that's a movie where you are getting the plot and it's point A to point B to point C. And then with Lynch and then Guadagnino's Suspiria, I think it's like point A leads to German expressionism, to meditation, to patriarchy, and then you eventually get to point E along the way. But there's so many things that are going on that I think in the way that Lynch makes it feel more like I am in for this vision that this creator has. This movie said, I am putting it all on the table, and now I am insisting that you take it and process it and digest it and pull something out of it yourself based off of what I have made. And for this kind of movie, that requires work. And so, Britt, when you say that you've watched it multiple times, I feel like I have to watch this movie multiple times. I've now seen it twice, and it still feels like I'm learning. And I think that is partially because it is a very complicated movie and it's kind of challenging. I think it's also because it's not the most well-made movie of all time. I think it does have some issues, and I think because the movie has those issues, it makes those themes and ideas that are being expressed more interesting. Because where one critic might say, I even said it in here, I think the fact that, you do have to have kind of like background knowledge to help understand the context of what they're saying in this movie to truly get the themes that are being expressed in this movie. I think that could be a criticism, but I think it can also be something that gets appreciated at a later time. And so even having this conversation now, I feel like my emotions around this movie are changing. And I feel like, because as you said, David, this is kind of like a good, let's have a beer after the movie and talk about it kind of film to fully grasp. I think just trying to do it independently makes it a lot more challenging and more difficult. And then I really like that Guadagnino is basically saying, like, here's something that you now have to go out and figure out yourselves. And I think Lynch does that as well, but Lynch's work almost feels like so much easier to follow because it relies on so many like strong Americana visuals. Like we can understand the visual language that is being expressed. And in this, it feels much more abstract. And I appreciate that.
I do wonder, Tyler, if we were all a little older, because even Britt and I are too young to understand what the RAF is as part of just common knowledge, or if we were European, because I think some of this just comes from being a little bit closer to things. Because we don't need a cheat sheet on Americana. We grew up with it. I think that if you're German watching this film, you're like, yeah, I fucking know all of this. When Bader Meinhof was being thrown around every other word for a little while, I was like, why the fuck are we talking about the Bader Meinhof? Like, it's a psychology thing. Because 20 years later, it would be so named based on all this shit from back then. These are the actual people. And I know about that psychological condition or the psychological sort of experience of Bader Meinhof in theory, but I didn't actually know the namesake of it. I'd never gone back and done this. I only knew what it meant psychologically. And that blew my mind because I started to get lost in being like, why are they talking about this? And like, isn't this too early? And yes, it's 20 years too early. That wouldn't be labeled a psychological term until the 90s. And yet here we were throwing it out because this is actually the people. This is the time in which those representatives of the party are being so named because of their influence. Yeah. Wild stuff. And again, stuff that I would need a modern European history cheat sheet along with me to really get what was going on.
I think that's so fair. Yes. Please,
Mandy. No. It's just here's my favorite part about doing this podcast is I get to be here and have this conversation. My co-hosts and our guests are so smart. I just get to hear you guys talk and be like, yeah, that's so fun and smart. This is great for me. Thank you for that.
But Marilee, you know about Bader Meinhof because you've brought it up on the podcast before. Don't say it or you'll start getting ads for it. That's Bader Meinhof. Oh. That's what that is.
Great. I love to learn that.
As soon as you say something, you're more psychologically conditioned to see it everywhere.
Ugh, that just makes my skin crawl.
Yes,
it really does.
I mean, it's disgusting because people took like a Cliff's Note version of psychology and we're like, I'm going to turn this into advertisement.
Yeah. Dystopian. It's dystopian.
Yeah, for real.
Hey, Tyler, how come all of our capitalist evil people have mid-Atlantic accents? What's up with that? What have we done? I don't know.
I feel like we're going to have to revisit that another time. Much like Suspiria, we can't have 8 different conversation points. We have to focus on the ones that we have.
Why not? This can be an 8-hour
you know what? That's
pod.
Fair.
Yeah, I've had a great time.
Okay, let's get Katharine Hepburn on the pod.
Sounds good.
Darling, we must move on. So I will ask one of the first of the 2 questions that we ask of every media we considered, which is it horror? Were you scared watching the 2018 remake of Suspiria?
I say a lot when I'm talking about horror that for me, it's not about being scared in the moment. It's about what follows me afterward. Because a lot of the time, I don't get scared in movies. I've seen so many films at this point. I'm not going to get scared. Video games, I will get scared. No problem. Like, God, the first time I played Resident Evil 2 and Mr. X was outside my safe room, it took my husband 20 minutes to convince me to go outside of the safe room. I was like, Mr. X is there. I can't do it. But in a movie, it just doesn't affect me in the same way. And I think it's because I'm more of a passive. It's more passive for me. Mm-hmm. But then at night when I'm laying in bed and I wake up at 2:00 in the morning, I'm like, oh my God, it's almost the witching hour. That's when I think about the themes of these kind of films. And Suspiria does stay with me, especially for the idea of control, the abuse, especially towards like women and femme bodies in this movie in particular. The just being a part of a dance company and how toxic it is, how toxic it is to be in that for me is really scary. Also pretzel, like, my God, the pretzel I think about, I'll look in the corner of the room when it's dark and I'm like, Olga, no, so yes, I personally think it's scary, but maybe not in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Though yesterday I was watching it at 8 a.m. and my husband was making breakfast and I kept saying, don't turn around. Okay, you're good to don't turn around now, because it was the pretzel scene and I knew if he looked at it, he'd go, why are we watching this?
Well, it's a long scene. We'll get to it, but it keeps going.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Which is a horror thing to do. And I think the answer to this is mostly yes. I think that we get to a certain point in the film in which things get a little too symbolic and confusing to me. And even though we proved it to be not necessarily always true last week with Black Swan, it's hard for me to be scared when I'm confused.
I think that's fair.
And we got to a point in the movie that I was confused into boredom, not into even interest. That was a little bit better on my second watch because I had a different layer of context to some things. Like the whole first scene is so much better on a second watch because you can make so much more sense of the dissociative nature, and so you get to enjoy the performance, which is, I know I'm getting a little ahead. It is phenomenal, and it is horror. It is capital H horror. Towards the end, it's a little bit less strong, and then the epilogue is a different movie. It's just different. It's just completely different.
Yeah.
It's not horror.
I want you to know, as I was watching the movie for the first time, I was like, I'm definitely going to hear David say that it was so confusing he ended up bored. And I'd like to thank you so much, because I have earned myself, I get to order takeout one more time
There you
this
go.
week, because I was like,
There you
I made me that bet, and I love to cash in.
Yes.
Yeah, it was a pretty safe bet, man. I was there. I was definitely there. But I will say, not for the first half of the film. This had, I think one of the things that made me so feel such a way at the end of the movie is that there were I had such a great time until I didn't.
Yeah. I just think that some of the visuals in this film are so striking that I really resonate with what you said, Britt. I think that some of this stuff is really gonna stick in your subconscious.
I think a big part of that has to do with the actual set design, costuming, the lighting choices that are made, the color choices in general in this are so gray and really stark and German and very 70s, and everything's kind of in a smoky haze because everyone's smoking cigarettes, but that's also a Guadagnino call out, I would say, or is that he makes things look very dreamlike, which I definitely think was present in Call Me by Your Name. But whereas that is kind of a pleasant memory of your childhood, this is I have awoken. It is 20 degrees in my bedroom. It's 2 a.m. and I'm very scared.
Yes.
And that is kind of the vibe.
And Olga is a pretzel in the
especially.
corner.
Yeah.
And Olga is a pretzel in the quarter. But it also, there just could be a monster in my basement.
Yeah.
There's so many creepy things in this place, and it's structured, especially the lobby. When we first see Susie entering the actual dance company building, the lobby itself is laid out kind of like an Escher painting. It's just very confusing and angled in such ways that are disconcerting. And I think that works really, really well to create just this omnipresent aura of dread and the threat of violence at any possible moment.
Absolutely. I think that one of the interesting things about this, I think this is shot beautifully. It's a really gorgeous movie to look at. And something that I hadn't really thought about until just now was the open spaces. We can basically see where everything is in the shots, especially in the dance hall. So you feel like you should be safe, but because of that open space, I'm what's behind the curtain?
Yeah.
What's underneath?
Yeah.
What else is it's performative. They're trying to say, look, we are open, we are telling you everything, when really they're rotten underneath and they're hiding their true intentions. And I think that is reflected within a lot of the shots, a lot of the places we go to in the film.
Yeah. And also,
Absolutely.
I think probably maybe because of the open nature of a lot of the sets, I feel like there's almost a panopticon moment where like you are always being observed, so you cannot see all of the eye lines, and I think that's also really fun.
Yeah, and,
hate it.
and
Ugh.
smart to use mirrors to deliver on that, but not. I unless one of you is going to correct me on this. I don't think a mirror was ever used for a scare. But I think mirrors were used very intentionally in spaces to make them, like mirrors are, to make them look bigger.
Yeah.
And to then make you have this broader sense of unease. Even in Susie's hotel, whatever that first space she's in, we're shooting Sarah through the mirror and it makes the room look bigger.
Yeah.
And it's very smart. It's very, but I was like, oh no, Sarah's gonna move in the mirror, because we just watched, fucking Black Swan.
Yeah.
Like, I'm used to bitches in mirrors doing things. And here I just think the mirrors were used in a very interior decorating, very ballet studio, very mirrors help spaces look bigger and help you see yourself.
Yeah.
But I think it also works too to, like, it is creating the illusion of a bigger space, and illusion is a major part of this movie. Like there is a whole room hidden behind a mirror, and I think because of that, this is like, I think that's also, again, I haven't seen the original Suspiria, but I think that is kind of reminiscent of like a haunted house sort of vibe that was present in the original Suspiria, and I think is also part of what makes the ballet studio, or not the ballet, but the dance studio and the dance hall itself and the dormitories feel unnerving, is that, yes, that is a mirror, but what is the mirror hiding? And I think mirrors in horror are so fascinating in general because they can showcase the truth, or is it a distortion of the truth? And because we don't really know what the exact truth is, it makes it uneasy for us.
Yeah.
Does the mirror hide a room, Tyler, or does the mirror hide an unbelievably large basement? That's right. This film has gone on my Letterboxd list, films with unbelievably large basements.
Oh my God, incredible.
I'm so happy that we are here for this. What a delight. Speaking of delights, let's talk about this movie in terms of queer theory. Like, is this a queer film? Can we make an argument for it being queer? What do you guys think?
I think here there was good queer representation. I mean, the stare between Blanc and Susie at the end of the film is very gay. I think that it's an easy interpretation that it's not just a power struggle between MARKOS and Blanc, that it also is something romantic or something that is beyond just power struggle, but what we get in the film is power struggle. But I think that because we're sort of wading through motherhood and wading through the abuse of these children and wading through this like different kind of love that unites the coven, we don't necessarily get the queerness outside of the dinner scene. The dinner scene is gay from here till Tuesday.
I do feel like the relationship between Susie and Sarah reads very queer to me. There was, in the original script, there was an excised sexual encounter between the two of them that we never got. And I'm pretty disappointed in that, because it felt like that would have been a moment of like queer joy within the film, which I just don't think there's any joy in this film, especially not queer joy. And that could have been a really nice moment. I mean, I think of the first time Susie and Sarah see each other across the room, and that is electric. That to me does not feel like two people going, look at that person across the room. It feels like two people sharing a connection that is very deep and very like instantaneous. And then I also read Susie and Blanc as very queer together, and I think there's that power struggle between, is Susie going to be on with like where Sarah is at or where Blanc is at? And you see at the beginning, like there's so many shots of the two, of Sarah and Susie, so close together within the shot. They're always there's nothing between them, like physically between them. And then later on, when Sarah's like doing her own investigation and Susie's kind of falling into the coven more, there is a lot of space between them, kind of showing how separated they're becoming. And also like, and it also doesn't, if you don't read it as queer, listeners, that's totally fine. The other thing I think of is like, as a theater performer, I've had very, very intense relationships with other performers who identify as female, just for like where we are within this this group. And I thought that was also very it really resonated with me watching this film. But yeah, for me, though, I do see that, but it's also totally fine if other people don't see that. I just am sad they excised that scene. I think it would have been beneficial.
Yeah,
Good movie.
I've never been more heartbroken than when you told me that there was a romance subplot and that got cut. That is
Yeah.
because I do think very clearly like there is a definitive breakup moment between
Yes.
Sarah and Susie, and
It's so sad.
right? And I think that would have hit harder if we had gotten to see more of like their real authentic connection, because yeah, that's just that is a heartbreak and a disappointment to me. And I do think
Yeah.
that the idea of like the Susie Blanc versus Susie Sarah is a really smart, great idea to keep in mind. I do think you're right, and that there is no joy in this movie.
Yeah.
And so if you are hunting for queer themes, I definitely think there's a lot you can find there. But I just would like to gently offer forward the fact that queer theory came about because of feminist theory. So even if you can't find queer themes, like feminist themes are everywhere here, and so there's still a lot we can dig through.
Yeah, and I mean, if we look at queer in the sense that it is a non-traditional male-female children family dynamic, this is a household run by all women who are mothers essentially, and the daughters are the performers. And they all live in this house together, and the daughters are kind of sisters. So we do have that gender dynamic, but I think also it's just atypical family structure, and it's also an abusive family structure on top of that. And so we could see a lot of criticism in here, and I mean that like just in the general academic sense of what this sort of queer dynamic is telling us. Why does Guadagnino, a queer person, kind of create this very toxic queer dynamic for these adults who in some cases are much, much older than the performers themselves, and the performers who are maybe like in their late teens, early 20s. And I think that is also very interesting on top of that, because there is kind of like who has the power structure here, who has the overall, like, is it a pyramid, is it this sort of shared sense of like, I want to care for these women, but I also see them as tools to further the plot for my coven. And then the women themselves, the performers, who are more concerned, they're definitely concerned about their performance, but like the windows that we see into the performers as a group are like Sarah, Olga, and they show more concern for Patricia, who has gone missing, than they do for the dance. I can't even think too much of like the performers talking about like, oh, you know, I'm so excited for the Volk. I'm like getting ready to perform. It's really just more like, oh, you know, I'm worried about Patricia. How are you doing? Are you going to be okay? Okay, I can teach you this, like how to jump. It's not a problem. But then we see like that is kind of like the only goodness that we have in this household, and is being preyed upon by these older people. And I think for that to be kind of like a queer reading, we see how these same sexual dynamics, even if there is kind of like the sisterhood that is supposed to unite people, power still plays into that. And we can still see how power can corrupt and be used to destroy the powerless, the performers. And so gender will not save you at the end of the day. It's really more of like, who is going to be the one that has the power, and how do you use that power?
Yeah.
I think where Susie comes from also we're meant to interpret as heteronormativity. And so what I guess I want to offer is that it's not just that like, ooh, this queer family is bad, but like everyone's bad.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Back to
Everybody's
that sort of
bad.
thesis point. So I don't think we were meant to say like, oh, this heteronormative family was good, because we see very clear examples of the toxicity of that as well. And God knows where I had this in my notes, but I do believe that we are meant to interpret them as the same sort of coven that we do interpret the dance company as later. And I think that her leaving the example of heteronormativity and coming anywhere else, let alone Berlin, and she's standing, the first time we meet Susie, she's standing under the sign that says exit in the subway station, which is also the name of a very queer neighborhood in Berlin. Whether or not that was intentional, I mean, it is also the word for exit. So like, maybe don't overthink it, but it's a little bit
I think
like,
you're
I was
allowed
like,
to overthink in this movie. Everything is ripe for overthinking. They want you to.
It's kind of required, because I spent some time being like, is there a train to Suspiria? There's not. We'll get there. But yeah, I think there's gayness in it. I think I think it's problematic, but I think that there are relationships that are happening between the coven and the students they're teaching. And I think some of those relationships are maternal, some of those relationships are abusive, and some of those relationships are romantic, and sometimes they are all three.
And I think that is also something that you can find in the world of performance. You have a lot of being a part of a cast does make you feel like a family. You are there for the person. It's actually kind of funny, like you bringing up the fact that they're not talking about the dance at all. They're talking to each other about, Patricia and Olga and being concerned for them. And that is very real to me. Like, for the most part, when you're in rehearsal, you do your stuff and then you're not talking about the show. You're not talking about the things you're doing. You're just engaging in something that's outside of it, because honestly, when you're on stage, by the time you're into a performance, you're not even thinking about what you're doing. You got it down and you're going with it. So that felt very real to me. I was like, that is what you would do. Like, that's what I do in the background, talking to somebody. We'll get off stage and be like, oh man, really think I'm gonna get some curry tonight. Yeah. Oh shit, time to go back out on stage. It's just that those conversations with this kind of found family honestly make sense to me. I think I like that part of this movie. Maybe that's the only joyful part, is that they have a little tiny family that they can appreciate, even though, like, I do think there are aspects that are problematic about portrayals within this film, but I also think that's important and on purpose.
Oh yeah.
And also, like, we are allowed to have toxic portrayals of everybody, and I think that's
I will say that I do think we're meant to interpret all the children. I literally was about to say they're not children. Where I think we're meant to interpret all of the company as at least 18. Like, we're not. This is when we're talking about abusive power relationships. We are talking about age differentials, but in a very May-December way, not an inappropriate child sexual abuse way.
Yeah.
I do think that that's important to know, especially after we talked about this with Black Swan. I think that age is a thing that becomes a little bit of a concern when you're talking about this. I do interpret all of these as women.
Me too.
Young women who certainly could be manipulated and impressionable by an older group of women who are literally a witch's coven.
Listen, we're well established on the pod to support women's wrongs, and there are a lot of women doing a lot of wrongs in this film.
Yes, I also support women's wrongs. Like, give me a messy queen every day, please. I love messy portrayals of women on screen. It's my favorite.
Well, no wonder you like this one.
Yeah.
Then
many messy
it feels
queens.
It feels like it is a ripe time to jump into the beat by beat for 2018's Suspiria. So the film begins with Patricia passing a political protest to go to urgently speak with a psychotherapist, psychiatrist, Klemperer.
I was going to do Klemperer.
Who knows what I'm going to say? Klemperer. Patricia is distressed and dissociative, claiming that they intend to keep MARKOS alive and that they are witches. Patricia worries about the safety of the other girls, particularly Sarah and Olga, and is convinced that the coven can hear and see her. With some lucidity, she says that MARKOS wants inside her before she panics and leaves the psychotherapist's office.
Ugh.
Oh my God.
This is especially on a second watch through, when it was like, I know what all these terms mean. This is great. This is perfect. Chloe, what is this? Chloe
Grace Moritz.
Yes.
Yeah.
Gosh, she's just
incredible.
This is kind of it for her, right? I mean, we do see her later, but this is her big scene.
I remember when I first saw this, I was very unsure about it. It being the opening, I didn't know if I liked her performance or not. I thought it felt like, especially with the rest of the film, it felt like it was in a different movie. And then rewatching it, I went, oh, that's why it is. We're supposed to be interpreting this through the we're supposed to be interpreting. We're seeing it through their eyes, not through Patricia's. So of course it feels otherworldly and strange and almost like it's from a different movie, because he cannot understand what's happening. Like, he unfortunately fails basically every single female in his life from the beginning, and we're being set up for that right here. And her as Patricia just blows me away.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, here's what he's doing. He's being a good psychotherapist to someone who's dissociative.
Yeah.
Except that everything this person is experiencing has actually happened.
MARKOS does want to go inside her.
But like, he does a good job doing the sort of things you do when someone is having a dissociative episode in your office. This is just a horror movie. So like, you can't rely on someone actually being dissociative when it's real.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just this opening really hooked me. Like, I was so there. I was game. The movie loses me a little bit later, but like, I had purchased my ticket, was ready to experience here.
It's high octane. It is, and I think sort of sets you up to experience a movie that's a little bit more faster paced than the movie ends up being. So a second watch through also made me a little bit more prepared for that brace for impact. Because we do go into a couple scenes that are a little bit like more pace. I would call them a regular pace. This is like listening to a podcast at 1.5, and then you meet the person in real life and you're like, okay, like you should actually talk a little faster. Like, I'm not
Sorry. No one has ever told me to talk faster, but I can try.
Me neither, but people listen at high speed. Someone listens to the podcast at 2 times speed. So good for you.
Good job.
We're all sounding chipmunks.
Yeah. That's okay. I was named after a chipmunk, so Brittany the Chipette. So
yeah.
Oh my God, were you really?
That was the place my mom heard the name Brittany first, and she to this day says I was not named after Brittany the Chipette, and I was like, bitch, yes I was. Don't lie.
That's so cute.
Incredible.
Yeah.
I'm doing the same joyous facial rubbing that I do when I think about Olga Pretzel. There's things that bring me joy, and sometimes being named after weird things is one of them.
I do want to say though, like to David's point, like I think that the kind of bomb that is Patricia showing up and just dropping all of this stuff in here for us to be very confused by at first, and then on second rewatch to be like, oh shit, she's like describing the crux of the movie, is so effective because Patricia becomes kind of a ghost for another hour and a half, basically, where she is mentioned frequently all the time. People are so worried about Patricia, and I think that would only work if we had such a big, huge presence of Chloe Grace Moritz coming in as Patricia, having this dissociative seeming episode, and really she is just slowly being driven mad by these witches.
Yeah.
And I think it's because of that, it's so effective, and then it makes the rest of the movie kind of have this tension of where is Patricia, what happened to Patricia, that gets answered in the last third of the film.
Yeah. You know what this is? Like, literally, I didn't think of this before, but just during this conversation, I realized exactly what this scene is. This is the first scene in The Thing with the Norwegians trying to shoot the dog.
Yes.
It's exactly the same thing. You get it more the second time, but it's like a high octane, you don't know what's happening, and it lingers the rest of the movie.
Yes, I love that.
Totally agree.
David has not seen The Thing, so he doesn't understand.
I have.
Oh, okay.
I have seen The Thing. Okay. I have seen The Thing. It worked for me on the first viewing because I don't know. I was maybe more prime for John Carpenter's art than I was for Guadagnino's art. I do have to say that I do like Guadagnino's decision to put in subtitles the "Hollow me out and eat my cunt on a plate," which she delivers in German. And what I like about that is it is a way to tell the audience about the type of film you're about to experience. It is a very tone-setting line. To do it in German with subtitles also tells you that you're going to be reading some subtitles. There's a little bit from Klemperer. We can just call him Joseph. There was a little bit from Joseph that was there in German, but I think this was like the big. You're gonna be reading some of this, and some of what you're gonna be reading is vulgar, and we're in a vulgar film.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get up to speed or leave the theater. And I like that. I like also that Britt was there for an adjacent work event, and that you had people who were coworkers sitting there reading the line, "They'll hollow me out and eat my cunt on a plate." I think that's good for coworkers.
I think it's really good for coworkers to be aware of vulgarity. If you
do.
can't.
I watched The Lighthouse with my coworker.
Oh my God.
So.
Incredible. Incredible. I love that. Nobody got up and walked out. So I think everybody was just here for it and went, all right. Yeah. They said cunt. Right. I guess we're going
those
with
trailers were pretty effective.
Yes.
I will say that much. Like they really kind of told you, like, I am about to watch, like, it was fresh off of The Witch being a thing. And so we were kind of primed for, like, I'm about to watch something weird and kind of sexual, and there's going to be nudity and swear words, and it's going to make me feel weird.
This is my favorite thing. That's all I want in movies. I want them to be weird and sexual and have violence and make me feel things. That's right up my alley.
As a true horror podcaster,
Right.
there.
who David Lynch is my favorite director. So like, big surprise.
There we go.
I will offer right before we move on is that Mr. Berger is the person waiting for an appointment. That is a name that will return to us at the end of the film.
Interesting.
I will wait till we get there.
I think we should also add, because I don't know if we mentioned it yet, Joseph Klemperer is played by Tilda Swinton.
Yes.
Technically, Josef Klemperer is played by Lutz Ebersdorf, who is played by Tilda Swinton.
Yes. And I did listen to an interview with Luca Guadagnino where he just said that he didn't want the male gaze in the film at all. So that's why he and Tilda decided to do this. I also think he was just like, Tilda, you want to play like 4 characters? Why not?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it. I was fine with it. I was like, yeah, Tilda, you do you.
I think it actually adds so much to the movie in terms of like the surrealness of it all.
Yes. Yes.
I'm gonna be
I'll talk
honest,
about
I
that.
did not notice that.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay. I felt like the prosthetics were apparent, not bad. It wasn't a me shouting at the camera wig situation.
I do that all the time. Oh my God, it annoys my husband.
You and Marilee, and Tyler even. I could never spot a bad wig, but I did spot the prosthetics. I think that they're.
I mean, I knew that there was something weird going on, but I didn't know what.
Okay. Yeah. And also Ebersdorf, which is the fake name that they give. Eber means pig, Dorf means town, swine town, Swinton, whatever. Cute. It's adorable.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Me neither. I like that.
Cute. Well, in our next scene, we see a desolate farm in rural Ohio.
A
Mennonite.
Ohio
reference.
There's mountains in the background. I was like, Ohio?
Yeah, it was just like, must be Eastern Ohio.
Must be deep southeast.
Deep southeast Ohio. Close to Appalachia and West Virginia, Ohio. So we next see this desolate farm in rural Ohio, wink. A Mennonite family cares for an infirm woman. The scene then shifts to the arrival of Susie to Berlin and the Dance Academy, which just says Tanz on top of it. She is welcomed by Tanner, who tells her that without references or training, she really shouldn't be there at all, but Madame Blanc allowed her to audition. Caught her on a good day.
Yeah.
I think is what they said.
I liked that.
But her audition is compelling, psychically drawing Madame Blanc's attention. Tanner tells Susie that she is admitted and will take the space of Patricia, who recently left the company. Let's start off in Ohio.
Well, of course, you would suggest that.
Yeah,
let's
obviously
stop in Ohio.
Big Buckeye.
I do again, like we mentioned this earlier with Guadagnino. Not a subtle wielder of a theme. I love the camera lingering on this cross stitch. A mother is a woman who can take the place of all others, but whose place no one else can take. Just really being like, here's that motherhood theme. I'm coming at you.
Coming hard on the motherhood theme.
For real. Also in this scene, we talked a little bit about Tom York, but like in this scene already, it's very moody and atmospheric and all. But then this song starts playing and it's absolutely gorgeous, like genuinely a beautiful song. But
yes.
It's so absolutely does not sound period appropriate. It took me out. Like the second this beautiful voice and like contemporary, it almost sounded like a Bright Eyes song started playing. I was like, what is happening? This does not look right here. And it's so wild. Does anybody else feel like this is a weird tonal shift?
Well, here's what I got for it, Marilee, because not only was it playing, but we were doing credits. We were doing title credits.
Mm-hmm.
Not like the title card. The title card has already been here. But we were doing credits, and so I was getting almost a little bit like I was watching Prestige television. I thought like, oh, this is like a Breaking Bad situation. Well, Breaking Bad didn't even have good title credits. Like this was like a Bridgerton situation where I thought like there's a slow pan of like all these scenes around the farm while like the supervising producer's name shows up. I was like, girl, what is happening right now?
Originally, my least favorite part of this movie was Tom York's soundtrack. It had a lot to live up to because Goblin Forever, the Suspiria soundtrack, is like #1 for me. I think it's the best. It has the greatest song ever in it. So it was always going to be a hard sell. And at first, I wasn't a fan of the soundtrack. I thought there were moments that were incredible throughout, and especially like all the dancing and stuff, great. But especially when he was singing, it really took me out. But again, because I think this movie is right for rewatches. On the rewatch, I kind of started to understand why this was placed where it was, why this kind of feels like it's not from this time. And I almost feel like it's we're especially with like the ending and like seeing the heart at the end and having this theme come back again and Tom York singing. I feel like, oh, we're watching something that's already happened. Like we can't like it's something for us to bring us back in time almost, like in how I was watching it this time. But again, I've seen this movie like 5 times, so I'm always looking for something that's like there's a point to it and it's right here.
Yeah.
That's my point.
I love and treasure that, so thank you.
Am I right?
Yeah, and
probably
for
not,
me,
but you know. That's okay.
No, I don't think you're I think you're correct, Britt. I think like honestly, Tom York's score in this, I said at the beginning, this was one of the reasons why I wanted to watch this movie. Because I enjoy Radiohead. I'm not like a huge stan or anything, but I really enjoy Radiohead and I really like what Tom York says in his music and in his lyrics. And so I was very interested in this, especially because huge shoes to fill with Goblin and the original Suspiria theme. I listen to that every Halloween.
It's so good.
But to me, like I don't mind that it feels like it doesn't fit the period at all. I actually like it when movies do that. Sorry, Merrily. But to me, it just feels like the director is making it such a stylistic choice. And Tom York being here, Tom York's music, especially kind of around the time that this was coming out, he was doing kind of more things that were focused on like folklore, Burn the Witch, from like the at that time contemporary Radiohead album that had come out, was kind of designed as like a throwback to English folklore, and the music video is done up as like an old like kind of claymation style from English television. Is kind of like a children's show gone wrong. And I think for it to be here, it plays into Tom York's interest in witchcraft at this time, but I think also his music sounds like spells being cast when he wants it to be.
Yeah.
And I think especially these particular lyrics, the in this song, which I think is just the Suspiria theme, is like this piano that keeps on repeating itself, kind of like a dance routine. And we feel ourselves being enchanted and transported into this world. And we know it's something very different from the world that we are in. And I think also the fact that it has kind of like this pleasant twinkling sound to the piano also is kind of like a good cover for what we will then see beneath. And the rest of his music in this movie, like the Volk song itself that he composes, is very much like the opposite of the Suspiria theme, where it's very intense and deep and uses a lot of synth music. And I find that very interesting. And then his other music that he uses in this too, he says he was inspired by Kraftwerk music, which was popular in Germany at the time that this was coming out. And so I think it does fit. I think it also is intentional that it feels as though it's out of time. And it just kind of adds to the weirdness of this movie. This is a very strange movie. It doesn't fit into one criteria at all. There's just simply so much going on and so much that has been crammed into this film that it feels so intentionally strange and even off-putting. And I think that the music being kind of like you have this reaction, Merrily, where it takes you out of it. Britt, you have this reaction to it where you really didn't like it, but then it kind of grew on you over time. I think that's part of what makes this movie so unique and oddball, is the fact that it can do things like that.
Yeah. It's just the reason, again, I want to like, I'm innocent here. Like this is not me being a hater for no reason. I generally don't mind anachronistic music. In fact, the fact that they include some music that is not appropriate for the time period, but like kind of fits it in like the first Conjuring movie is one of my favorite things. I love that song that they put in there. It's just, I feel like I want to defend myself here that the rest of the movie is so period appropriate. The fact that this is so sonically different is the reason why I felt that way in the moment. You know what I mean? It is deliberate for sure, but it clashes so hard. You have to have like a moment about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that was a very common opinion at the time too. So Merrily, like, I'm not accusing you or anything. I'm saying like, I think your opinion is just as valid as everyone else's, and it was very popular at the time too. Like, so much of this movie is polarizing. It only makes sense that the music would be polarizing too.
Yeah. But we're like we are in a period pace later when we're following when we're following Joseph to his county home. I was like, oh, I turned on a documentary about East Germany. Like, this is no longer even a horror movie. This is just straight up like a period piece,
right?
And
it's a drama.
That's slow TV.
Yeah.
If Radiohead had played there, I would have been like, what are we doing here? But later, we're going to hear him in the chamber underneath all of this, where it is too big. It is an unbelievably large basement. And that's fine, because we're in an unbelievably large basement. You can play whatever song you want down there. You're allowed to.
I also, the fact that they make a comment about Susie, how she should not have even been given an audition due to the fact that she has no credentials and no training for dance. I mean, even with modern dance, it is all about exploring the body, but training is key. That's how you keep yourself from injuring yourself, because like that's why you have to have those the classic foundations so that you're able to continue doing this as long as possible. So that like super resonated with me, because I was like, yeah, I'm a dancer and there's no way I would audition for this like company if I didn't have any training at all. But I just think that goes to show that like Susie's always been Suspiria. Like she's always been the mother, and she's always been drawn to it. And I think it's such because there's so much disparity in the coven witches that are a part of this. At first, they don't believe her. It's when Blanc feels it through the floor and comes down that they realize we have something very special here. But I also think them saying like, you caught Blanc on a good day. Blanc knew. Like Blanc subconsciously felt 100%. It from Ohio somehow. Ohio with lots of mountains, apparently. I don't know much about Ohio, but
I don't think Blanc has good days.
Oh, Blanc, no.
No.
Blanc has no good days.
My girls.
Does anyone in this movie have
no?
good days?
Everyone's rolling ones. This is not a happy family.
No.
But I think you're exactly right, Britt. I think that you caught her on a good day is just something Tanner says. Tanner might even be in on Blanc's suspicions, because I do think the two of them share more with each other than sometimes the rest of the coven gets. And I do think that it's, I think that maybe it's even an inside joke to Tanner. Like, we're going to see if Blanc's right about this one, but even I'm not sure. But then even Susie must know something, because she's there with no intent to like go home and get her things. She's like, no, I live in Berlin now. Like, I'm either a dancer or dead.
She has
like, I got no other choice.
Her stuff is in a Salvation Army bag. Like, she has nothing. She's just going to disappear if she is not accepted. But she knows she's going to, like
she's got like some ancient traveler's checks and like $7 of US currency, not useful in Germany in 1977 of all time.
Not at all.
Not at all.
So in their quarters, the matrons of the dance company hold a vote between MARKOS and Blanc, where MARKOS takes the majority and remains in control. Tanner and Blanc discuss what happens with Patricia, and Mother wants to try again, but Blanc wants to make sure that the ritual will work with the girl that they choose. Sarah helps Susie bring her luggage and shows her around the dormitory that the dance company lives in. Meanwhile, Klemperer looks through the journal that Patricia left in his office.
This is also the sequence where Klemperer goes from East to West Germany, and that is the trip to the country home, which is, I will say, fucking gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
I could actually watch a film about 1977 divided Germany and just the people who live in it. But this was almost a little too day in life, and it was a little slow.
Mm-hmm.
And not in like a fun slow burn, like I know things are building on this. And Klemperer's story does evolve, and that is exciting. But this was almost a little bit too time and place for me, that I was like, we started off going 120 miles per hour. I don't mind that we went down to 80, but we're at 10, and I just need a little gas right now. Just a little gas to get me through.
Yeah.
I think this movie needed a little bit tighter editing.
Mm-hmm.
It's 2.5 hours long. I think we could have shaved 30 minutes off,
at least,
to be honest. And I think this is one of those moments.
And yet we cut an amazing relationship between Sarah and Susie. Like, don't be wrong, Tilda Swinton walking around as an old man does also fill me with a certain type of joy, but it could have been a special features like that. I would have loved as a deleted scene and put in some hot love. in here to give us both a moment of queer joy and then a moment to really make Sarah's gift at the end of the film be even more worth it. Could you imagine? Like, okay. Anyway, we'll get there.
We'll get there. Speaking of Sarah, Mia Goth, come on the pod. Like, my love, her lack of eyebrows has really bewitched me. I'm obsessed with her. She's so good. And she's so great here.
I do love, I'm looking at the notes and I love that 3 of us have just put Mia Goth. And I just put Mia Goth, Scream Queen Supreme. I love Mia Goth so much. And I do think it's this film that really introduced me to how much I love her and how I will basically watch almost anything she's in other than Nymphomaniac 1 and 2 because I don't need to put myself through Lars von Trier. But I love her. And I think she is so sweet in this role. And I don't really like describing people as sweet. I'm like, oh God, a saccharine. It's not great. But like, I want to be friends with Sarah. She seems like just a good, genuine person. I think she's the only genuinely good person in this movie other than like Patricia and Olga. But we don't know enough about them to really make that assumption. And I love her.
I also loved Mia Goth's performance in this, but I must confess on pod, out loud, that I have limited RAM space in my head. And RAM has become so expensive now, I can't upgrade.
Yeah, that's so fair.
Yeah.
That I have space for one Goth in my life, and it is the Goth family from The Sims. And so anytime I see Mia Goth in an article, I think of Bella Goth. To me, they are the same person. The mother from the Goth family, your original neighbors in the original The Sims. I think about that every time I see Mia Goth's name. And so when she showed up in the credits and I was like, oh wow, she was really good. And I was like, that's funny. That's the name of the woman from The Sims.
That's so funny.
I can't help myself. I just can't help myself.
Listen, just shave off her eyebrows and it's the same person.
Yeah.
Mia Goth as Sarah is like, Sarah's last name is Goth. She's like a runaway from the Goth family. And she's just like, finally get away from all that weird shit. Now I can go learn dancing in Berlin. Oh, fuck.
Guess I'll be a part of a ritual instead. Which, like, I feel like in The Sims, the Goth family was usually a part of, like, some type of ritual where you'd put them in the pool and take the ladder out to see what happens, right? You know?
But that
classic.
Aliens show up eventually.
Very MARKOS-like behavior.
Yes.
Right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, but I do share with I want to see more Mia Goth things. I don't think I've seen her in a lot of things. I looked at her filmography and a lot of misses for me.
I love her in Pearl. And Pearl, I think, is a divisive film, but I have a poster of Pearl behind me. That movie made me so happy. So I highly recommend that one.
I really think Mia Goth should have been nominated for Best Actress.
Absolutely.
For Pearl.
That monologue.
She really
horror
carried
movie
that
ghetto.
film. The monologue, the end credits sequence where she's just staring and crying.
Yes.
Like,
God, she's so good.
Really incredible. I really love Pearl.
Let's just add that to the watch list right now.
You don't even have to watch X, the movie that came before it, David. Like, it adds a little bit to it, but Pearl really stands on its own.
She's holding an axe?
Yep.
Is this right?
Okay.
Correct, yes. It's a little bit like What If Dorothy were a axe-wielding psychopath?
Yeah.
Okay, well, great.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
It's so cute.
She's a treasure.
Yeah.
So good.
We love her.
Well, it is Susie's first day rehearsing with the company. Blanc welcomes her and begins rehearsing the Volk. Olga will take Patricia's part and Sarah will take Olga's part, but Olga is upset about Patricia's disappearance and intends to leave the company, running out of the space and crying witches behind her. When no one else offers to take the role of the protagonist, Susie volunteers, and my God, even I was like, you don't do this. For day one, and you want to be the lead? Rachel Berry, get out of here.
Real Rachel Berry energy right there. I agree.
So true.
Blanc places her hands on Susie, and then Susie begins to dance. Meanwhile, Olga has packed her things and goes to leave when she passes 2 of the matrons. After that interaction, Olga begins crying viscous liquid out of her tear ducts / sweat glands. She's just sort of moist after this, and a voice lures her into one of the studios. As Susie dances, Olga's body is psychically thrown, and then she contorts and breaks, eventually leaving her a crumpled mess on the floor, but still alive. Susie stops dancing from exhaustion, and Blanc goes to care for her and tells her to rest.
Olga Pretzel.
Oh boy.
Olga Pretzel.
We're back to 120 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Boy, aren't we?
Yeah.
I asked for gas in the last scene, and the film was like, here you go.
On a platter.
Not only are you getting gas, you're getting tears, urine,
Oh,
the whole nine
yeah.
yards.
I didn't even put urine in the thing, but yes, there's a lot of capital B, capital H body horror that goes on here, and it is fabulous. I loved all of it.
Well, and
Yes.
the artist who plays Olga, they're a contortionist. So a lot of that was them doing, obviously like they definitely couldn't do certain things, but a lot of it was them putting their body into interesting places. And her performance in this is so it tears my heart out. I feel so bad for her because she is so defiant before. And defiance is something that is looked down upon in theater. You are in dance, in this world. They want you to be compliant and to do what you are told, to not ask questions. And, it feels unnecessarily brutal. And I think that had she not been so defiant, I think she was screwed no matter what. I think she was always going to be sacrificed. But I do think that there is and I know this is going to sound stupid, but it's mean. They do it on purpose. They're absolutely mean on purpose.
They admit later to being angry
and
sort of having emotional response to this. Yeah. Later, there will be another act of defiance that is not met with the same reaction. So I do think this is a nice creation of an expectation for us as an audience as well. Like, fuck with these girls, and this is what you're going to get. Yeah. And later, when it's not delivered, you're kind of like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
I've also, just a moment for Dakota Johnson. Like, I think another figure that is somewhat divisive in the world is Dakota Johnson. I think that she brings an incredible ability to be flat into spaces, and that is misinterpreted as a lack of talent. And yet, as Susie, I think that she is delivering very, very, very well here.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And she is literally, we talked about this with Portman, so I'm going to talk about with Johnson too. She is literally performing modern dance in front of us. And to do it in a way that can be captured and edited with the contortion work that Olga's performer is doing, and then to cut these scenes very, very well together and draw this entire sequence out so long as to make the audience uncomfortable, is doing capital H great horror work, but it's also just great performance. It is, I would have fun just watching Dakota Johnson's performance. Should a cut exist just of that probably also would have been enjoyable. But it's way better cutting to Olga.
Oh my God, yeah. Knowing that Susie is there basically as like a honeypot really changed the experience watching the movie for me from the first time to the second time. And like seeing the ways that like Susie is there in the space really changed for me. And I really think that this is a kind of movie that you should watch more than once.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it also helps too that the dance that Dakota Johnson is having to perform is very physically intense. Like, I don't have any knowledge of dance at all, but I could tell, and especially based off of like the dialogue that is shared by the instructors, it's very physically demanding, and they're saying like you could very easily get hurt. And Britt, you said that a dancer could very easily get hurt if they were unprepared for it, and so kind of having that primed in my brain then makes me, first of all, impressed that Susie and Dakota are both able to kind of perform at this level. But also it makes me concerned for Olga when I see how intense the body movements are of the dance, what that is then doing to Olga that we could see. It just adds more and more on top of like the discomfort that we were feeling. So we even have like a mixture of like, I'm feeling impressed, but I'm also very horrified by what I'm seeing. And that kind of conglomeration of very opposing feelings, I think also helps kind of like enhance the story that we are experiencing in the film itself, to make it just like, oh God, this is a challenging work that I am watching right now. And I really enjoy that. I also just kind of think like this whole concept of dance as magic is so interesting, and I'm a little surprised that we don't see it more often. The band Fleet Foxes did a music video, a really like, oh God, it's got to be like close to 10 years ago, called Fool's Errand. That came from one of their, it was 2017 album. But in that, there is like a series of groups, and there's these women that are wearing robes, and they are color coded. So there's like a red group and a yellow group and a blue group. But then there's one woman who is dressed in like drapey black fabric, who is really dancing kind of like this Vogue-esque sort of movement, where everyone else is dancing in very like firm poses. Like they're very just like sudden stop kind of movements, but there's nothing as dramatic and physically aggressive as the modern dance that we see in Suspiria, except for this one woman in black. And to me, that also has like a very magical element to it. Like that's purely my interpretation of the music video, but it feels like some sort of ritual is being performed. And there is just this one woman who cannot do it. And I guess she's kind of like, she's a little bit like our Susie in that moment, in that she is dancing really hard, but she is also kind of like decentralized. Like she is not going along with the framework of what a dance performer should be doing. And so this woman in the music video is kind of an exiled figure, whereas Susie becomes special because she can do something that no one else is able to do. And so I think there's kind of like a neat parallel there that just kind of enhanced my appreciation for this a little bit more personally. But I think still, like, the idea of just the body itself is the instrument that will then create this magical effect, I find so fascinating. And I think this movie does a great job of presenting that, because like we are our body is us. And so when we can do these things, it feels so personal because we are in control, but we're also losing control in the dance. And it's just a very multifaceted thing. And I think that makes sense for such a multifaceted movie.
I love that point so much, Tyler. I think that it's really important to bring that up because dance originally was more of a ritualistic thing. Like, I don't think that it would be considered dance, but in pagan practices, people used movement in order to elicit whatever it is they were trying to do. And so then as especially if you look into like the witch trials in Europe, a lot of people who were accused of witchcraft, they would bring up dancing as a part of it because that was considered inherently old religions that you were no longer allowed to be a part of. Because as we, as a lady with lots of Catholic guilt, I've done a lot of research into all of this kind of stuff, and they quite often would bring dancing in with the devil and with the Black Sabbath, and so I think it's so cool that they translated it here so well. And I mean, like, eventually dance became, ballet came from, French aristocracy, which then became modern, which came from basically like vaudeville, like vaudeville dancing. And it's just such an interesting, rich history that came out of ritual. And I think they brought it into it perfectly here. You can tell immediately a spell is being cast, and I fucking love it. Give me dance magic, please. It's so cool.
Oh God, that's
Absolutely.
so good. Yeah. And there's like a really subtle effect where you can like see glowing where Tilda Swinton touched Susie, and that's so good.
Ugh.
It's just great.
Yeah.
It's a really, like, I think one of the things that you could really say very positively about this movie is the choreography of the dances themselves.
Yes.
Are extremely impressive and gorgeous, and I think makes me interested to see what else modern dance it can do outside of a horror movie.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate that, and I think that's part of what makes this movie kind of unique in its way.
I agree.
Volk, the title of the number, you probably could guess this, means people, or means folk. Volkswagen, the people's wagon, people's car. But of course, has much different meanings before 1945, and then after 1945, there was a specific way in Volk was being used to elicit some Nazi sentiments, and so that's the name of the piece has a lot to do with that sort of theme that we talked about before, which is the rejection or a sort of cultural moment that Germany is having. And so to name this piece and to say that it was written during the war, I think we're going to continue to come back to as we explore what's going on with this dance company, with Madame Blanc, and with ultimately what's going to happen in this film.
That also does bring me back to the performative nature of the coven itself, because the fact that they say it's a piece that's supposed to be going against this what happened in the 40s, and then being people that just fucked off and didn't do a single thing about it, and kind of didn't aid this fascist regime that took over, but didn't do anything to help stop it or help anybody, is just so fucking performative to me. And I'm like, fuck you for taking that and pretending that you had something to do with it. Like,
girls, go play with a Nazi's dick at least. Come on, do something.
God,
girl.
do something.
Something. My goodness. Well, I think actually on that note, like it is kind of like something that I struggled with this movie. Was also thinking like why Suspiria in 2018? Why is this movie happening now? Why is this the remake that is chosen? Why did Guadagnino say I wanted to make this? And I think it's because it's easy to draw parallels between 2018 and where we are today and the time period that this movie takes place in, and also just this idea that fascism is kind of hiding in places where we do not suspect it to be. So like we see like fascist toxic control in this dance company, but we also see people kind of reckoning with who we were, what we are now. And like 2018, like it feels so long ago now, but that was in the first Trump administration. We were dealing with a lot of like the rise of fascism and calling it out in a way that is not really called out today. So that's one way that things have gotten worse since then. But certainly, like, I think it's possible to see like we have this very classist, ageist element to this, whereas a gerontocracy in place here in this coven, and the young people are the ones who are then reaped for slaughter and are used for resources. And these are people who are just pretending everything is fine. The status quo should remain forever. And I think that kind of mentality itself is also how we got to where we were politically in 2018. In Europe, especially, there was a huge rising tide of right-wing political beliefs and politicians. And I think just like this is all about the time that we are in. This was about the time that the movie was released in. This is about the time in the 70s and before that. So again, like this is a heavy stew. This is a hearty stew of a movie. There's lots going on. And I think being able to pick out these moments really helps make the movie seem to achieve the thing that it really wants to do. But, you know, I think analysis, talking about the movie, is what helps us fully understand exactly what Guadagnino did, even if the execution did not always work.
Yes.
Now, let's move on to our next scene. So while Joseph Klemperer looks through Patricia's notebook, the coven looks over the heap that is Olga, hooking her flesh to transport her through a secret compartment in the studio. Klemperer calls the police to report Patricia missing. Tanner and Blanc discuss Susie's dance and that it was their anger towards Olga that caused Olga's pretzeling. Blanc interviews Susie, discussing her background and how she came to join them. I think it also is like their anger is what made Susie's performance better. Am I getting that right? Okay. I did not get that when I was watching.
I only read
originally.
their anger was what happened to Olga.
Yeah, like I think that there was like a magic that Tilda Swinton put into her, and I do think that they wanted something to happen to Olga, but I don't think they expected it to be that much. And so like they were surprised by how vicious it turned out to be.
I kind of interpreted it as because we see later on that a similar thing happens. I saw it as Susie kind of taking some of Olga's life force, some of her magic from her own dancing. But it was so violent in the way that it came about because she's powerful. And because we see it later with the jumping, like she takes the jumps from the other performer. So to me, what I saw was her kind of sucking the life out of someone else, sucking the magic from them and siphoning it into herself so that she can be strong enough for MARKOS at some point. But she's not going to be because she's actually
someone else.
The mother.
Yeah.
So...
Well, Block ends up interviewing Susie, discussing her background and how Susie came to join them. Susie then shares with Sarah that she will dance the protagonist in Volk, but Sarah is distracted by what Olga said in rehearsal about the witches. So we've got, so as we just kind of jumped in there with, there's a lot going on in this, and there's a lot to kind of like analyze and determine, like, was this the intention? Was this the intention? Which again, I think that sometimes works, that sometimes doesn't in this movie. But I think that we are now jumping into a period of interpretation as we get into these nightmare sequences. So we end up having some very complicated dreams that are very nightmarish, just very sharp, very like sudden cuts between visuals. The visuals themselves seem abstract, but are laden with the violence or the threat of violence or some sort of deformation or body horror going on. We get some peeks at what Olga went through, the hooks that the witches used to pierce Olga. We see bits of that. Really just like a lot is happening in these sequences. How do we feel about these dream sequences, Britt?
Oh, they're so Lynchian. My friend and I turned to each other and we were like, Lynch in the middle of them, because they do feel like nightmares. And this also, I think, is the most similar to Suspiria from 1977. Not necessarily with the imagery, but with it being so nightmarish, because there are so many sequences in that film where you feel like you're going through a nightmare. And I thought that this was... I'm not sure they all work, to be honest. I think that it kind of gets a little bit muddied in the various images that we see, but I don't really care because I just think they're cool. It's one of those things where sometimes the vibe outweighs where my brain wants to go, and in these sequences, vibe all the time. Like, give me that vibe and I'll be happy.
It's a very vibes-based movie.
And I'm a vibe-based girl, so... give me vibes.
We love that.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the dreams are visual, eat my cunt on a plate. Like, this is, again, it's about tone setting. I do think that if you're asking your audience to interpret a lot of things in the film, having uninterpretable dream sequences is a little bit unfair as a filmmaker. So I do think that it is a beautiful curtain that we are putting on the window. But if you told me everything else in the room is important and you need to spend time looking at it, I'm going to look at the curtain too. And for it to not deliver anything, I don't, straight up, just, this is a David thing. I don't like dreams. Like, if you were to have come to me when I was a psychotherapist and been like, David, I had a dream, I'd be like, I don't fucking care. Go see someone else because it's not my thing. But I have to agree that they are stark and they are well made nightmarish scenes. I just feel a little cheap. And the film asked me to interpret everything else, and then like ball of hair in the toilet doesn't mean anything, and dreams don't mean anything. So that's actually my thesis. It just doesn't. It then speaks to against the film's other nature.
Yeah.
I think Blanc says later in the movie when she's talking with another coven member, that like she has been sending their dreams to Susie. So like, you could theorize that like the discordant nature of the images is because they're like 5 seconds of a bunch of dreams from 20 other witches.
Yeah.
But like you could have made it more clear that they were from different people if that was the point that you were trying to get across. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think so as well. To me, I think dreams work in stories like this because they are kind of like, they're a mess. They're the brain's way of just trying to process information from throughout the day. And scientifically, that's pretty much where we think they are. I think in films like this, in horror films, especially movies like this, I think they're also meant to just kind of communicate tone or to unsettle. And so, David, I agree with you. I think it's a little unfair for Guadagnino to ask the audience, like, okay, interpret this blender or fruit salad of nightmarish visuals. But I think it's also just there to kind of conjure feeling. In the same way that dance, the modern dance seems so confusing and very befuddling and everything else, but it's still just like the whole and the feeling that it engenders in the audience. That's what is the significance behind it. And so I think like these dream sequences work for me. I think they're creepy and they freak me out. And I think there's like some images in there that are meant to be kind of like foreshadowing or reminiscent or just sort of planted in there so that when we see it happen later, it's like, oh, that was from the dream from earlier. But other than that, like, I think it's just kind of meant to like freak you out.
I mean, a horror movie should unsettle you. A horror movie should make you uncomfortable and possibly confuse you. And I think that if that was what Guadagnino was going for, damn it, he did it. A+. Very unsettling, very discombobulating.
Yeah. And then it also makes me think too of like the scene from Mulholland Drive where that one character is describing his nightmare and then walks behind the Denny's. And God, that fucking scene is so good. But that is like that feeling. Lynch was so incredible at capturing dreams and nightmares on film and creating that sort of same emotion, but you are living the nightmare, you are living the dream. And I think that is fantastic. And in this case, it's not the same thing that Guadagnino is trying to do, but I think it is trying to inspire similar feelings of being discontent and uncomfortable.
I agree. And I think it is successful. It's not as successful as Winky's Diner, because that is just the most unsettling scene I've ever seen in my life. But I like that he didn't try to just do that. It did feel like a new interpretation of how unsettling a nightmare can be. And as a person who has a lot of nightmares, not just being like, oh, I have nightmares. I just do. Like, I watch a lot of horror. That's what I basically, like, I have nightmares all the time. It did feel like some of my nightmares. I was like, oh, I'm in my nightmare. Yeah. Okay, I can accept this. It's a warm, cozy place for me, a nightmare. So I'll take it.
Two police officers come to call up the academy following up on that call from Klemperer. Marks pretends to be Blanc and welcomes them inside. Meanwhile, Sarah and Susie break into the academy's office to find information on Patricia, and it simply isn't there, and neither is Olga's file. Following laughter she hears, Susie sees members of the coven tormenting the police officers, who both stand there bewitched and simply, like, vacant. The body's there, but their mind isn't. During the rehearsal, all eyes are on Susie, who dances towards the ground, under which we see an inhuman hand extending upwards. Blanc and Tanner share a deep stare during rehearsal, and afterwards debrief that she wanted to feel Susie herself. So Tanner put her in a storage closet under the floor. It was Markos who insisted upon it. Susie is the girl that they need, but Blanc has doubts about Markos, who Markos is, and the whole ritual situationship.
Okay, there's a lot going on, but let's talk about the invasion of the office first. This is good. I mean, because this is queer crime. If we're reading Susie and Sarah to be queer lovers, then this is queer crime, and I love queer crime.
I'm here for queer crime.
This is Thelma and Louise without the car. This is great. I like that they're doing hijinks together. I like that they're sort of trying to find out information. They're trying to unravel the mystery. That this shows that there's a deeper conspiracy to all of this, and I do like that. At one point in time, Susie steals a lipstick from a drawer, and like that's the end of that plot line.
Yeah, I was really surprised the lipstick didn't come back in any way, shape, or form. And maybe that's just because we watched Black Swan last week, but like, surprised we never got more lipstick.
I'm surprised she didn't like put the lipstick on when she puts on her amazing black cloak
We're
gown.
Getting there. We're getting there because the fit is perfect.
I want that fit so badly. Like, I just want to be Susie for Halloween every single year in that fit. It hasn't happened yet because it's cold in Seattle during Halloween, so I'm not going to do that.
It's a very revealing outfit. It's a very warm.
I'm a burlesque performer. That doesn't bother me whatsoever.
Let me rephrase. It's a very warm weather outfit.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
The revealing doesn't bother me either. It's just you need a shawl with that motherfucker, and that's going to ruin the look.
100%. It would totally ruin the look. Like, no, thank you. I don't want a shawl.
But I will say, once Susie leaves to find the laughter, the witches being witches is wonderful. It shows me who they are. They are playful. They are powerful. They can control the minds of others. This is what I loved this scene. I love Here Kitty Kitty Kitty.
Totally.
I think this is incredible. Them using the hook to play with one of the officers' penis is incredible. I really did appreciate it.
Yeah, I was not expecting like a full Pooh Bear situation as she walked into the room, but that was what was happening, and it really does communicate a lot about the witches and their power. And I also feel like it communicates a lot about Susie, who walks in there, sees what's happening, like laughs at the situation, goes back into the room with Sarah and doesn't mention it. Again, it didn't make sense the first time you watch it, but on the second go around, when you know who Susie is and like how she is here and why she's here, it makes a lot more sense that, like, of course she sees this magic and thinks, yeah, okay, funny. And then comes back and hangs out with who should be the protagonist of the movie during investigative journalism.
I also just appreciate, like, can we please just have, when we have one person who's nude, can we just have more nudity in film? It's not bad. It's totally fine. And if we're going to have a bunch of femme-presenting people naked at the end of this movie, thank you for giving us one penis so that it's not one-sided. That's all I want to say.
There'll be a prosthetic penis later, too. Don't worry. There's a second one.
I love it. Oh, yes, I love a prosthetic penis. It's just my favorite. I just feel like we never get naked men on screen. So it's like, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
Especially
equal
like
opportunity.
non-sexual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think
Exactly.
that's actually a nice mark in the corner of queerness for the Coven as well, is that there's no sexuality to these men. They are truly playthings. They're members of the Authority. That makes them viable to be played with. And then the manipulation of the penis is not sexual whatsoever.
No, they're making fun of him.
It doesn't even feel emasculating, though. It just truly feels like we're playing with a thing that's floppy. And I do really, really appreciate that, because I think a cheaper trick would have been to emasculate the man.
Yeah.
And yet it just truly is, I'm just playing with these two people. They play with the hand of the other one. It's like outstretched and like doing nothing, and they like poke it with the little hook thing. I love it. I loved it.
I think if this movie was about taking your power back from the patriarchy, this scene would have a very different feel.
Yes.
But because that really doesn't have anything to do with the Coven, which I think is such a great choice, this is the funniest scene in the whole movie. Like,
okay. I
you know what
I have
I mean?
a contender later, Britt.
Okay, great. I love that. And when they're like, you put her in the storage closet, like the shock of the storage closet. I was like, this is so funny.
Yeah.
I'm okay with it. So
Yeah.
A little
messy.
levity here in the middle.
yeah.
Not too
Can
bad.
I push back very gently about like the not emasculating them? Because they do, like, as they're playing with his penis, they say, "Hey, kitty, kitty," and like, what's another word for your a female genitalia is a pussy.
True.
So like, I just throwing that out there.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
I think the scene is weaker if it's about emasculating. So I hate that.
Oh
you
yeah,
brought that
no,
up
like
to
I'm
me.
not saying that I'm not saying that like that's the point. I just did think that it was funny and interesting that they used that, like, "Hey, kitty," when the pussy of it all.
The pussy of it all. That's
Yeah.
That's the subtitle of this episode. Suspiria, the
I
pussy of it
do
all.
think that we would get in trouble.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Spotify would probably flag that one as
what,
like,
Spotify,
"Ooh,
eat my
hold
cunt on a plate.
Yeah, how about that one? That one, that'll fly.
Yeah.
That'll be the name for the Patreon version.
Perfect.
Of this episode.
Well, the girls and the matrons all go out for the night, and the Coven telepathically discusses having a witness, deciding on Klemperer. That night, Blanc sends more dreams and nightmares to Susie, leading her to awaken, shouting, "I know who I am." Sarah comes in to comfort her, and the other girls remark that they have all had nightmares. I think it's the MARKOS Company special, is what they call it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Klemperer goes to speak with the same police officers we saw before, but they found nothing, telling him that they searched every room in the academy, and we know that they did not. Nice little use of dramatic irony there. Before he leaves, Klemperer tells one of the officers that they actually knew each other, that officer tried to help find Klemperer's wife, Anka. This was the sequence, and I'm particularly interested now that, Britt, you brought up Giallo. There's something very discordant in scenes with long performances by Lutz Ebershoff, Tilda Swinton as a man. And that the lip sync is incredibly off in this scene in the police office. But if that is a reference to Giallo, that is cool. It read to me as an error.
I don't know. I haven't read anything that said that it was a reference to Giallo, but I like the idea that it is.
But it's off, right? I'm not like, okay, great.
Yeah, no, it's
it's
like we were
bizarre.
lip syncing
Totally.
for
Yeah.
our life, and we were all going home. This was
Yeah.
no winner this week.
This can't be a 5-star movie on my letterbox because
Okay,
of this
okay.
scene, because it's so strange to me. But if it is for Giallo, bump that shit up for me, because I just vibes.
I would agree with that, but there's too many. So it's like the lipstick. There's just too many of these
Yes.
things that I'm like, well, like,
Agreed.
what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck just
Yes.
happened?
Yes.
And not
totally.
in a what the fuck like the dreams thing. Like the dreams should be what the fuck. That's fine.
No. In a error.
It felt more like Tilda Swinton is having issues with the prosthesis on her face, and that makes it difficult for her to communicate the dialogue, so they have to redub it in
Yes.
ADR.
And the
That's what it
ADR,
felt
the
like to
ADR
me.
is from a
Was
different
bad.
Dakota Johnson movie.
Yeah.
Sorry, babe.
It was
Sorry,
Madam
babe.
Web.
I love you,
abs-
and I actually find Madam Web to be endearing, but the ADR is atrocious.
Yeah, no, I do kind of like, I think on the one hand, it doesn't work. I think if we wanted to be charitable, you could say like it works in the sense that it is again trying to make us kind of like discomforted with what's being seen, and it's part of the artificiality of it all. And like the fact that Tilda Swinton is playing Lutz Eppersdorf, who's playing Josef Klemperer, like there's already so many hats on top of hats. Like why not throw more hat on top of there? And so it's just kind of adding to like the weirdness of what is happening with this role and this performance. And so on the one hand, I kind of appreciate it for that, but on the other hand, it is also just like Tilda Swinton was struggling with the prosthetic that day, and so they had to redub it in ADR. Like that's what it feels like to be.
And I think if we didn't have such important lore about Josef's wife in that scene, they would have cut. Like they would have cut that scene. Do you know what I mean?
And I think they should have cut that scene, frankly.
Yeah.
Even still, you could have added something later. Maybe something with like Miss Sesame or whoever it is that's like constantly in the house and like dealing with Josef and because like she exists in the periphery of a bunch of scenes. We don't really have a good scene with her. You could have done something like that instead, because this scene is simply atrocious.
And if Guadagnino's goal is to have less men, then cut out the only scene you've got with the men, and then you've even accomplished another one of your goals.
And also, most things aren't explained in this film, so why do we need that explained?
Agreed.
Like
Agreed.
we don't need it.
He looks longingly. He looks longingly at a picture in the papers. Like, I have enough of Anka. I don't need more Anka.
Yeah, great. Anka.
Oh, she wasn't in Poland. Who fucking cares? Yeah.
The whole Anka plotline doesn't really get
we'll
me,
get to it.
honestly. It seems like it's there to provide payoff for the ending, and that's kind of it. And so I find this whole thing's
Cut
weird.
Anka. Get rid of her.
I like
We'll
Anka,
get
and
to
I
it.
will explain
We'll
why
get to it.
when we
We'll
get
get to
there.
it.
Okay. So rehearsal continues, and Blanc comes over to guide Susie on the jumps. She summons Caroline over to show Susie her jumps. Susie tries again, but she wants to be on the floor, telling Blanc about the artistic reasons to not do the jumps. Blanc tells her that the piece was made through the war and that Susie needs to get into the air. Blanc's stare goes from Caroline to Susie. After rehearsal, Caroline has
We
a
got
seizure.
some A++ Blanc here. That's why this scene description is so short, because I thought this is our time to talk Blanc. There's so much going on here. Not to mention that it starts off with her wanting to like close the curtains, and Tilda Swinton yeets this chair that is near the curtains. That is one of the most horrifying moments of the film to me, because she has an inherent physical violence that she is capable of. And that was outstanding and delicious. But the lines, "Are you so happy to be stuck to the earth?" is, I would have cried if I was this girl. Or, "You're mistaking physical weakness with artistic preference." God, I wish I had seen this when I had a staff, because I would have totally told my staff, you are mistaking a work process with your inability to use a software, because this is the most devastating thing someone has ever said to an artist in their entire life.
Here's the thing, though. It's not. Like, that is so commonplace in theater, in this world. That is a blatant fact that she told her.
Well,
like,
it is
she
true.
Isn't strong enough to do this. As a dancer, this was such a triggering scene. And I don't use the term triggering very, like, lightly, because I just don't get triggered by a lot of things. But this, I was like, oh my God. The fact that she had someone else show her the jumps is like... That is the most mortifying thing that could happen, to be like, you're not doing it right. Shelby, come on up and do it. And then you just have to sit and watch and go, why can't you do it like that? Like, why can't you? The amount of things that people say to theater performers and performers in any place and think it's okay is wild. So her saying that you're mistaking physical weakness for artistic preference is just like, yeah, par for the course. I'm sure that is not the worst thing she's ever said, and it's not the worst thing that she will say to Susie.
That's incredible. I love it. I mean,
it's awful.
Hateful.
I was one time cast in something, and the person who cast me told me, yeah, we were looking for somebody who actually was hot, but you read really well. And I was like,
yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate your feedback.
Incredible.
Yeah, no, the amount of things that people say to performers that they think it's okay, or to be, say like, wow, you really were working against type with that. Great job. You really tried. That type, it's just
sociopathic. Just
It's
That's
awful.
insane.
It is absolutely bonkers, the things that people think they're okay to say to performers. You get it all the time. Like,
Britt, after this, let's talk off the pod. I would love some names for those fucking
absolutely,
assholes.
no problem. No problem. Like,
Let's hex those bitches.
you have to have really thick skin, and I don't. Like, if somebody says something mean to me, I'm just gonna cry because I don't like people being mean. And then I'll get really. I only cry when I'm angry. If I'm sad, I'm like, well, that's really sad. If I'm angry, I will start crying, and it makes people very uncomfortable. And I'm like, good, you should be uncomfortable.
Good.
Yes.
Good. It's actually so funny that you say that, Britt, because I'm now suddenly thrown back to when I was in Midsummer Night's Dream, my senior year of high school. It's my first show, and my director is trying to direct me how to turn around. And she was just like, why are you doing it like that? And ever since then, I'm just like, okay, I have to think about which direction I'm turning because apparently that's important.
Baby Tyler.
And it was that has stuck with me forever. I even did it earlier today.
It does stick with you when people say those things. It gets into your psyche, and there's always that one person in a show that the director is unnecessarily harsh on. Like, and I've been that person. The director is unnecessarily harsh on, but it's uncomfortable to watch. So I'm sure every other performer in there was like, we're not going to say anything because if we do, Blanc's just going to go in even harder. You know, she is a violent person. She is an abusive person. And this scene showcases it so well.
And yet, she speaks back to Blanc, and we don't get an Olga.
Yeah.
There's no Olga moment for Susie. Susie is allowed to make some questions. She still suffers for it, but not in an Olga way. Like, this is a different line that is being drawn. Susie is being treated differently.
Yeah, and it's all about like this is an artistic difference. This is I don't know what Susie is doing here, but like the seduction of Blanc by Susie throughout the film, like there's a reason why she's treated differently here. It's because Blanc thinks about Susie differently, and I just think that it's so smart, like the way that you talked about it right then. I love it.
Oh, it's very uncomfortable, and you should not be in those type of power imbalances with people in power in theater. It's very, very dangerous.
That is actually how people get hurt.
That is
physically, emotionally, psychologically, spiritually. That is where a lot of abuse in the arts happens.
Yes.
And is this where you said like your theory, Britt, was that Susie was deliberately draining Olga and that's why it was so violent? Is this the other place where the draining is happening?
Place. Yes, because you see her and her jumps are bad. Like, let's be real. Her jumps are bad. And Caroline's jumps are incredible because she's lifting herself up by her core. Like, that's the most important part. Susie doesn't have the core work to be able to continue this dance, which again is also why she's like, I want to be on the floor because I just can't do it. And I think there are other reasons, but to me, I'm like, yeah, bitch, I can't do it either. So I'd also want to be on the floor. But there's this stare between Caroline and Susie, of Blanc from Caroline to Susie, and that almost feels like Blanc saying, "Can you do it? Can you take it?" And then she does it. You know, I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but then she does it twice, and she suddenly has these jumps, even though she sickles her foot. And I was like, that actually. I wonder if that was on purpose, because if so, good job, because sickling your foot, you don't do that in modern. You don't do that in any.
Would you mind explaining that for the people who don't know about dance? Obviously, I know, but like for the audience.
So when you are dancing, you're supposed to keep your foot in a straight line, not only because it's prettier, like from your ankle from your leg through your ankle through your foot, but also because it's extremely dangerous to dance with a sickled foot. You're more likely to break it. If you fall, you're more likely to roll it. So it's very, very important to keep the structure of your foot when you're jumping. And Susie isn't keeping the structure of her foot. Her toes are pointing inward ever so slightly. And I was like, get some energy through those toes, girl. You're not, that's not a good thing to do.
No.
But she doesn't. So obviously she took the power.
So Britt, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Is Dakota Johnson doing better jumps later? Because I have no frame of reference. So she's,
Yes, I think she is doing better jumps, but she's still sickling her foot.
But
I think it's probably the way that they shot it
Great,
to make her look like she's lifting up rather than, because when Dakota Johnson's doing it before, she feels like she's pounding into the ground. Whereas when Caroline is jumping, even though it's very loud, which I was like, that must be a choice because you're supposed to roll through your foot and not make a lot of sounds when you're jumping. Caroline still feels like she's floating up into the air. She doesn't feel like she's being dragged back to the ground, whereas Dakota Johnson is. And then later on, it feels lighter.
But probably camera work. The only reason I ask is that it is always impressive to me when someone has a lot of talent and then has to act bad at that talent. And I always love calling attention to that. But we are probably seeing Dakota Johnson's jumps, and then later we are seeing camera work, which is fine. I don't need everyone to learn to become a master dancer to be in a dance film.
And I also don't think that there's a way she could have. Like, the amount of training, she had 2 years of training, which is incredible. Like, she does a really great job. She moves really well with her body. But it is not, there's no way she became technically an incredible dancer in that amount of time.
Okay, perfect.
You just can't.
Caroline, on the other fact, I assume is a professional dancer. Like, she's...
Yes. I think the entire troupe was an actual troupe of dancers.
They very much are dancing. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my
Britt,
goodness.
thank you so much for that really valuable contribution, and like the way that you have that dance knowledge is really doing a lot for me in this as we're talking through it. I really appreciate that.
Good. I just like talking about dance.
Great. So outside, Klemperer approaches the girls, saying that he is a friend of Patricia. Sarah goes to lunch with him, and he shares his concern. But Sarah isn't convinced, and he isn't convincing, so, like, I totally get where she's coming from. She reads the diary herself, but still doesn't see it. Klemperer says that there are secret rooms that Patricia told him about. Sarah leaves, and we love that. Back at the studio, Blanc continues to work with Susie on her jumps. Blanc tells her that she must decide what to be for the company, and Susie says the hands. The coven discusses the ritual and what Patricia was unwilling to be in the end. Blanc is trying a new approach with Susie. As their conversation comes to an end, one of the matrons stabs herself in the throat.
Okay, well, let's start with Klemperer in this diary, because there is a moment that almost feels a little bit directorially self-serving, in which Klemperer is like, there are two themes in this diary. One is about the ongoing protests and the nature of our nation, and one is about this coven of witches who are all sort of mothers to each other, and they're equally important. And I was like, come on, man. Like, this is a little too winky at the camera for me.
I think most of Klemperer is a little too obvious, and I almost wish this entire movie we didn't know who Klemperer was at the end when he's the witness. I think that would have made it so much more interesting to me, because bringing this aspect in it's just kind of disappointing, because it's such a femme forward film about honestly abuses within these families, and bringing him in feels like, but why? I really it doesn't add to the story for me at all.
I could just kind of theorize that Klemperer was the main character in the original Suspiria movie, and that's why he's there, because, like, I don't understand why else is this man wandering through the film, making it longer than it needs to be, and just, like, bogging it down with a lot of the politics, particularly, that I don't think work as well with, like, the dance storyline. I really feel like a lot of this could have been cut, and I saw you shaking your head that he isn't. So
Udo Kier plays Klemperer, comes in for a moment, and it's honestly the worst scene in the whole movie.
Oh, good.
Because it's the only scene that takes place really outside of the dance hall, like other than Susie walking through the airport in the most incredible lighting ever, in the most incredible clothing ever, to be like, Susie Banyan arrived in Germany to become a dancer. And it's incredible. But like, Klemperer is so unnecessary in that, and is just there for exposition, because Dario Argento was like, oh shit, nobody knows what this movie's about. I don't even know what this movie's about. So
yes. Incredible.
It feels like Luca Guadagnino was like, I want to make that into an actual part of this movie, but it's not necessary. We don't need it.
No,
I'm glad that at least they kept to the tradition of Klemperer being a useless addition and just dragging down with more plot exposition. Really thrilled
obsessed.
to hear that.
Britt, I have to say I'm particularly obsessed with the suggestion that it would have been better to have him kind of be like on the sidelines for much of the movie. I think that also would have worked too with like it being Tilda Swinton playing two roles and wearing a mask of prosthesis. Because that kind of adds an unsettling quality to it. Who is this old man? Why is he giving me weird vibes? Why does he not seem like a real person? I think having that sort of like phantom character in the background would have added something to this movie that would have added to like the disconcerting quality of it all. Because I think you could even draw a connection between like there's all these matrons and it's all women that are running the place, and then there's this one creepy old man just sort of like out there in the shadowy corners of this film. And then we would have gotten maybe like the satisfaction of what his whole backstory at the very end of the movie. And I think that would have kind of also added a little bit of more of an emotional impact than what the movie actually ends with. So yeah, I don't think Klemperer and I don't think this scene really works, but I do think Mia Goth's performance is
She's
really good. Like, I think she continues to be Sarah, and I think she does a really great job of being that sort of like, who is our good person in this movie? Who is the morally good person in this movie? And she's going to continue to act like the morally good person, like the protagonist of a horror movie, but the horror movie is so different from what she should be in versus what she is actually in.
I got to say, I do like her sort of starting to unravel because we need Sarah to start to do that, and we're on our way.
My poor girl, no.
Yeah.
Let her be happy.
Sorry. She can't.
She deserves to be happy.
She can't.
Let her dance. She just wants to dance.
God, I can't wait till we get to that dance because.
Well, let's go down to the dance studio because this is the fun scene between Blanc and Susie.
Mm-hmm.
So this I liked this. I liked what they were doing together. Now that we know that it's camera work, I appreciated and knew that this was better dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have a read on the "sometimes I only need to be told twice" line? Because I don't know what's happening here.
Maybe it's Guadagnino saying you have to watch this movie twice.
Yes.
Honestly.
Wow. Honestly, not wrong. I do want to say these hands are small, I know, but they're not yours. They are my own. What the hands being the thing that Susie chose felt like a very important moment, but then it also then felt like lipstick later. What am I supposed to do with my hands?
Holding something together, right? I thought of her as being like, I am the thing that is bringing us together. I am the hands that will lift this coven up to what it's going to be. I will be the one who brings us forward with my hands.
Yeah.
My little phalanges.
I like that.
Yeah. And I read it as like a metaphor for action as well. So I think that totally fits in with what you're saying, Britt. I think it is, if we are in a period of status quo and like things have to be kept as they are, and Mother MARKOS is mother forever, except she's not. She's starting to be on her way out, but no one is really brave enough to bring that up. I think having Susie be the hands, the force of action, is like a really great metaphor and read on that. So I'm totally with you.
Yeah, like I viewed that very much as like part of Susie's seduction of Blanc. She's saying, I want to be the hands, which are of course something that do not have agency. They're not like a thing that has thoughts. They're something that is used by the body to enact something else.
Yeah.
And I thought that was her being like, yeah, I'm here to be the hands so you can use me for your own ends. Except that that's not, of course, what she wants at all. But she is trying to get into the position where she can enact the things that she actually wants to have happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knife to the throat, anyone?
Yes. I have a theory.
Yeah, you have a theory? I would love a theory.
I'm curious,
please, anything.
So I think that whenever we are seeing this character, this matron, it's usually in accompaniment to like something going on outside. So we hear about the flight, we hear about bombings, we hear about, it has something to do with that. And I think that she's probably disillusioned by what's happening, but doesn't feel like there's a way that she can continue forward with this coven and doesn't feel powerful enough herself to be able to expose them. And I don't necessarily love the idea that she sacrifices herself in order to give our girl Sarah the ability to start going into something. But the next scene we see after this one is Sarah not being able to sleep and starting her own investigation by herself. So I think it's her Because, like, you know, in a lot of lore, it's like, oh, we must give a blood sacrifice in order to elicit something happening. So my interpretation is that this is her last sacrifice to try to take the coven down. And it influences Sarah.
Okay. Well, that is exactly what happens in the next scene, because Sarah, as you mentioned, cannot sleep. She hears noises and footsteps, and she counts the distance from her room to where she heard them below her, discovering that hidden compartment in the studio. Sarah takes one of the hooks from inside this like giant apartment that's not even the giant chamber. There are so much basement in this movie. Be on notice, Hollywood. I'm coming for your large basements. With Klemperer, Sarah shares what she has found. Klemperer, in turn, shares what Patricia wrote in her journal, that MARKOS claims to be one of the 3 ancient mothers, and that there is division in the coven about whether or not that is true. Sarah leaves the hook with Klemperer. Back with the Amish family, remember Ohio? The infirmed woman is being prayed to by a priest, and she confesses that her daughter is the sin that she left to the world.
Dun dun dun.
The whole sequence with Sarah here is very scary. It's very intense.
Yes.
It feels very like traditional horror movie to me. Which is almost like a nice break from the weirdness that we've been experiencing so far. And then, of course, Sarah delivers the hook to Klemperer, and Klemperer is as useless as ever, which I think is like kind of his character by the end, is like he's just kind of there to be sort of just like exposition guy and then useless dude.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
that's it.
He's got this journal that he can just be like, you should
right?
read this. Stop coming to talk to me. Maybe just you sit down with this.
I am failure man. All I do is fail things. All of the women in my life failed. So you take this journal and maybe I won't fail you, he says.
Yeah. But I mean, it does move. It does move the story along. I agree with you all. I love Sarah in the big creepy house. I mean, curio full of weird porcelain. I was waiting for the Warrens to show up.
Absolutely.
Like truly and honestly, we were in like traditional horror. It was awesome. To the point that it was a little too bright in the living room when I was watching this, and I was like, "Oh no, this is a film with dark."
It's a dark movie. Like, a lot of it's very dark.
I'm glad it is like cold and snowy out, because it was like the perfect environment to watch this movie in, and I just closed all the blinds.
Can I tell you, you are not wrong. If we had watched this in July, I would have felt so discordant, because even here where it's not, cold, but it is colder, I was at least like, oh yes, snowy Europe. This happens in parts of this continent. There's some wild stuff going on here. And then like going back to the Amish family, this is where I was kind of like, oh, I get it. You're trying to tell me that these are both covens.
Yeah. I do think it is interesting. Again, as much as I feel like the farm family does kind of detract from the point of what's happening in Berlin, I will say it is interesting that is explicitly where Susie comes from, because the idea of like 3 mothers lost through time, wild thing to just drop as it becomes extremely important later. But then also the fact of the matter is, like, especially in that, I mean, the Pennsylvania Dutch idea, it's like there are German immigrants who have this particular lifestyle, and the idea that like there is that connection between Berlin and this community, I think could be interesting. I wish it was either explored more or left to the side.
Yeah.
I do think it is interesting though that the mother is dying during all of this. Like Susie's mother is dying during all of this. And saying that her daughter is the sin that she left on the world. And we see glimpses of young Susie, who was always obsessed with Berlin, and needing to go there. And there's certainly, I think there's even implications that like Susie's mother is the way she is because of Susie attacking her potentially. Like it's really it's in one of these like blink and you'll miss it kind of shots. But I do think that there's something interesting about this. I think for the Mennonite family to be kind of coven-esque, I think is also like a pretty solid read on the situation as well. And I mean, the mothers are an important part of this movie, and like the poster said at the start of the movie that the mother can never be replaced.
Or can she?
I don't know.
Well,
Or
the
can
mother
she?
also comes back later, as she literally, the same actor is used in the final scene.
I didn't realize. That's so fun.
That is her mother. So
God. I don't know if this is artistic or just have a bigger casting budget. Good Lord, let an actor have one role.
Oh no, I think it works perfectly. I love it so much.
All right.
They spent all of the casting budget
How delightful.
on naked dancers for the end.
Yes. Yeah, which is please use your budget on that because I loved it.
It's beautiful.
I think the blood budget also by the end of the movie is only exceeded by the
And
substance.
hair
Yeah, that's
budget.
right.
Let's be real.
Hair,
Yeah.
not costumes because those are pretty threadbare. That's just that was one shirt and we used it for everyone.
That's West Germany for you. So back at the dance studio, Sarah tells Susie her concerns, but Susie tells her that nothing is wrong. Then it is the night of the performance, to which Klemperer has come to attend. Susie is worried about Sarah, who isn't there. The dance must proceed without her, for Sarah is down in the hidden room again, the mysterious giant basement. She finds Patricia in a tortured and wounded state. Another figure stirs in the room. Olga still lives as well and is crawling around like a horrible Silent Hill monster. Sarah flees in terror, but as she goes, holes appear in the floor before her, and she falls and suffers a grotesque compound fracture in her leg.
I love it.
We are getting a whole listeners. We are getting a whole spectrum of emotional reactions around my co-host and my guest right now, and I don't know what to make of it.
David's so
before you
visibly
explode, I need to know, how are you feeling in this moment?
Here's the deal: when the holes started appearing on the floor, I was like, "Ugh, this is so stupid." And then she fell through and had the compound fracture, and I said, "All is forgiven." You know what? Holes appear in floors. I retract any problem I had with this because the break is it's such good effect work. We do some, I mean, it doesn't sound like a break. It sounds like a cartoon break, but that's okay because it's grotesque. It's amazing. Mia Goth is doing pain and suffering. It is so good. Then the holes are gone as if maybe they weren't even there. How did she get this break? Perfect. Loved it so much. We're so back. We're back to 180 miles an hour. Like, it's just, this film it's fucking with me because now I'm like, this is a 5-star movie, but it's not. This is a 5-star scene in a movie with other
This
problems.
is a career-ending injury. People have injured themselves less and still never been able to dance again. So when I was watching it, there were it's just mix of emotions of like, oh my God, that was an incredible prosthetic, great break. And then also breaking my heart for Sarah, knowing she's never going to dance again, except when she does. And oh, Jesus Christ. I love this scene. I absolutely love this scene. It's kind of wild to me that Susie is still pretty concerned about her, keeps asking where she is. And she said, oh, she came in early to, do her makeup. And at that point, I'm sure the coven knows we're taking her out. Like, it's what's going to happen. And trying to keep Susie on track so that she can continue with this ritual for MARKOS because they need Volk in order to move to the next step, I believe. Oof, that fracture though, it gets me every time. I love it. It makes me so uncomfortable.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it.
It's great. But
It is grotesque is the accurate word for it.
But the sort of psychology of the career ending of it's giving Winona Ryder from last week. It is giving, like, not only is this bad because it's bad, but it's also bad because it means that your life will change significantly. And this is a person who is in the middle of their career versus Winona Ryder, whose name I've already forgotten, Beth maybe, who was at the end of her career.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like, it's painful, and Mia Goth does such a wonderful job expressing like the pain in her screams, but I think also the emotional anguish too, and the fear from it all as well. Because like, imagine walking through just a dark space and then suddenly holes start appearing on the floor, like you're in fucking Looney
and it's not
Tunes.
just her
Like,
walking through a dark space. She is being chased by the horribly deformed bodies of her friends who should be dead.
Yeah. Poor. I mean, Patricia. Like, we are getting our Patricia payoff in this scene as well. Like, Patricia, we didn't discuss it, but Patricia is not only tortured and wounded, but also seems to have aged. Like she looks like she is decaying. Her body is showing signs of like post-mortem trauma, and she still lives. Same thing with Olga. Like the body looks like it is no longer has blood flowing through it, and yet she still moves around. And I think it's terrifying and it's sad too. It's very tragic, and it's also really creepy as well, because it's like it seems like there's spider webs that are being held up to like kind of connect through the tape that has been placed on the dance room floor where Volk is being performed. There's just these women are batteries for the witches and the magic that they perform, and it's very tragic to see, and it's scary. And it's also because Chloe Grace Moretz, she performs this without seeming like, kill me or anything like that. It's nothing like that. It's just the most depressed person you have ever seen in your life.
Yeah.
And I think that is such like a wonderful way to perform that. That is a great choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think also like kind of getting into the queerness of it all, like we see what happens when this member of a non-traditional family is damaged, and you see the extent of it and how like the fear that has to come from realizing that the people who are in charge of caretaking for you are doing the exact opposite. Like truly like that queerness that is meant to shield you and be kind of a bulwark against the heteronormativity of the outside world and the fascism and the return to fascism or the denial of fascism and the reckoning of it, it still gets into you. And that's deeply upsetting.
A lot of the time these places are places where queer people feel safe too, in theater, in dance, in performance of some type. And the fact that these performers are so young and they're not capable of really talking back, they're not capable of body autonomy or of even trying to save themselves, because they're relying so heavily on these people that have told them that they are protecting them, that they are there for them, just breaks my heart. Because it's in Patricia just kind of being not being capable of asking to even have her life ended, asking to be taken away from this. Right. She's just resigned to, I am here forever, because they're still under MARKOS at that point. They're still under this horrible, like, honestly, fascist regime of MARKOS, and there is no way out. And it's just, it's really disappointing and sad. And poor Patricia. Poor Olga.
Yeah. Poor Patricia.
Poor Sarah.
Poor Sarah. God, we know we love Sarah.
Yeah. So the coven comes to Sarah, passing their hands over her to calm her and heal her wound. She rises in a trance and goes to join the dance in progress. As the dance goes, Tanner tells Blanc that the girl is ready. It's time. The dance ends with Sarah's injury reasserting itself and leaving her writhing in pain on the floor. Sarah is carried out by the matrons in the company. That night, Blanc comes to speak telepathically with Susie. Blanc gives her rest without dreams.
Okay, so I do think this is the beginning of Blanc's mommy era, but let's start with the dance. So I think the dance is incredible. I think it is beautiful. I wish that we had used a few... this is my critique for all dances that are on film ever, through all of human history. Fewer cuts would make me enjoy them a lot more. I think the cuts are there to create anxiety. I understand that I'm watching a horror movie, but I kind of wanted to see the performance, if we're kind of being honest. And we were doing Dancing Through Life from Wicked. Like, just... girl, I just want to see a shot of this dance. You don't need a cut every time somebody stamps their foot. And that's what we were doing. It's fine. It got a little close to feeling like another error in filmmaking rather than intent. I
think it's intentional, because this is supposed to be, and I think we get less cuts later on when they're performing the ritual during I just call it the blood orgy, because there's a lot of blood and everything. But, I think it's intentional because Susie doesn't actually complete the ritual. Like Susie, if Susie had completed the ritual, I think that we probably would have gotten a full shot of it, and then MARKOS would have taken over her body. I do think in bringing Sarah back for the dance, I think that ruined it. I think that's where MARKOS was not able to come in, because Sarah is this point of protection for Susie that is keeping her grounded in like her Susie-ness, in her Mother Susperiorum-ness, and with the cuts we can tell something's going wrong, and so that's why I think it works. But I also would like to see more of the dance because no notes is beautiful. I'm
like selfishly, I just want to see them dance.
Yeah, like Susie, give yourself to Markos. I want to see this damn
like
dance.
We're fine with it, I guess, because the dance is so good.
You guys are great.
Well, that's what
I'm really glad that you brought up the like the Susie, like Sarah is kind of like a protection for Susie, because they do kind of say like, Susie, you kind of caused Sarah to like fall down. Like we had everything under control, and then because of your influence, you caused Sarah to fall, because we kind of like lost that control. And so there's like a weird shifting of powers that are going on here, and no one really wants to comment on that being the case, but it is certainly happening. And I don't know if it's in this scene or if it's a little later, but there is a moment where Susie says, like, you think that it can't get worse than this, but everyone seems to think
that's in the last scene in this section when she and Blanc are having their telepathic conversation. Like, Susie basically says that you think this is going to be the worst it gets. I don't know that that's true, which is very Mother Susperiorum of her.
But I think it also is kind of demonstrating that, like, oh boy, like things will get messier, and the status quo will be upended. People think that the status quo cannot be upended, and it very much can. And Blanc is just like, whatever.
Think, and I've never thought about this, so I don't really have any full ideas around it, but do we think that the harming of Sarah is what pushes Susie to Madame Susperiorum? Do we think that's a possibility?
Well, especially because the end of the scene is the injury and sort of Susie confronting the fact that Sarah, her friend, her
girlfriend.
Yeah, I would say it's her girlfriend.
And her girlfriend. especially if they had actually been able to hook up. I think that I like that, Britt. I think that explains a motivation of why the end happens. Because I think on my first viewing, the end had just kind of happened because it was time to finally have the end of the movie, Guadagnino.
2.5 hours in.
You must eventually find the end of a movie, my man. And but I that having so much more purpose would have I wish they could have had that moment of love together, because then I don't think we'd be asking this question. I think we would know the answer to that question.
I do think that their breakup at the top of this section of notes is very interesting, because like Sarah is telling Susie, hey, there's something wrong, like, there's something wrong, there's something going on here, and like Susie keeps being like, no, everything's fine, nothing to worry about, and she's like, the bill will come due, and it doesn't end up happening that way because of what is going on with Susie, but I do think that if it was anybody else, Sarah would be completely right, and I do think that's also very interesting to point out.
Absolutely.
Well, meanwhile, back with everyone's favorite person, Klemperer.
Oh, God.
He's okay, and I took a little bit of journalistic liberty here. I think he put all his journals in this bag and threw them into the river. It's whatever. He's done. He throws the hook in. He's just capital D done. Meanwhile, back with the actual plot we care about, there's a dinner between the matrons and the full company. Blanc sits at one end of the table, Susie sits at the other end, everyone else sings and has revelry, and Blanc and Susie are like the most staring that staring has ever been done in all of staredom. They are looking at each other, and then Susie just vanishes. Klemperer, oh God, we're back. Klemperer goes to his country home and he finds a woman there. It's Anka, his wife. She tells him about what happened to her, being captured at the border without her papers and being taken into a concentration camp. She was eventually freed and made a new life for herself. She ends up leading him to the dance company, but then she is gone and Klemperer is attacked and taken captive by the Coven. So let's start with the dinner scene, because this is just, it's incredible. I mean, this scene is first of all, Britt, you've listened to the podcast. You know that even though smoking is very, very bad for you.
It's so hot, though.
It's so hot. It is just so
hot.
And every single person here is hotter because they smoke. And I hate that that's true. And you shouldn't smoke if you were listening to this.
It's not actually hot in real life.
Don't smoke. Do not smoke.
And if they were all
not.
vape,
And
if they
you
were all
smell bad.
vaping, this would be the ugliest scene that has
Oh
ever
my
been filmed.
god.
What a biggest villains on celluloid.
But this is where there's a little bit of sexuality between each member of the coven,
Yeah.
and they're like assigned girl. And there's something happening there, and I don't need to know what it is because it's all sold by Blanc and Susie, and that's enough, and I don't need any more. But I loved this scene.
I think that the look between Susie and Blanc is so electric.
Yes.
And it is the moment where I think we are sure that Susie has taken over all the power. Like, that's the coolest moment to me because Blanc wants it. Blanc wants to be the one who has the power, but she's given herself over to Susie at this point. And I'm like, go, Susie, do it.
Yeah.
Explode heads.
And I think what's interesting on top of that is their
Yeah.
hairdos, because Blanc's hair is pulled up into this low ponytail at the back, just like Susie's hair was at the very start of this movie. And then Susie's hair is laid out. She's got like her whole forehead's on display. She's got the curtains, but it is just a loose hairstyle indicating like she's free. She's liberated. She is her own woman. And I think that is very interesting storytelling. And it definitely showcases the balance of power is shifting. And I think that's fantastic.
And I do think the dynamics across the table are really interesting too, because I don't think that it's that type of because I do feel a very sexual connection between the two of them. But I don't think that's the dynamic for every single one of these pairings. And that's really cool to me too.
Right.
Like they could have just been like, everybody is fucking everybody in the coven, which whatever, fine. Like you do, you have fun. But it's more interesting to give us different power dynamics across the table.
Yeah.
I think this scene, this is a 4.5-star film for me because of these moments, because these moments make me think so hard and I love it. And then I'm like, oh, but Klemper's there. Klemperer, we don't need him. Like,
No.
come on.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, on paper, I don't know. I don't want to say too soon, but on paper, torturing a man who lost his wife to being captured by Nazis and then she's actually okay and he wasted his life and they didn't find her. There's something there. It's also a little bit like, I don't know. It also feels a little indecent even though it's fucking 80 years later. It does feel like it's a little sacred and maybe you shouldn't pull this thread to torture this man. I'm sort of left kind of, I don't like it because I don't like Klemperer. And so I don't end up liking that he's getting tortured because I just don't need it. He's going to get his in a little bit. It's fine. And if kind of the first time he'd showed up, as you all have postulated, was he was the sort of guy who was around, but we didn't spend a lot of time with. And then he is the witness and he's laying there on the ground would have been a pretty awesome moment.
I think also if it just was free of dialogue, like if it were just Klemper meets with this woman and they hold hands and you have to pull from that they are husband and wife and they have been lost from each other all this time, and then she disappears when he's outside the dance academy. I think that would have added more to it and would have allowed us to experience like more of the body language, and the human body is such an important part of this movie. I think that would have been like a really good way for the audience to just kind of like actively learn it, as opposed to like getting this whole diatribe from Anka that is just a bunch of lies. Because then it also feels like it's a trick on us, the audience, not just Klemperer.
It is a trick on us, the audience. Like, I kind of respect that. I'm like, wow, you were blatantly tricking us. How dare you? But I also really like Anka just because, and this is a very stupid reason to really like Anka, but she's the original Susie from Suspiria 1977. So I was like, Susie Banyan is back. And it made me very happy that she was there. And she was so, I felt like even though I don't like Klemper, she was really good in that scene. Like
performance was great.
Felt for her. And I was like, if we cut her, that would do a disservice to this really beautiful performance that she managed to do. I ultimately do not think it's necessary, but but because she's original Susie, I was like, God, I love this.
Well, and listen, what other things can you have in your resume? I was the original Susie and I kissed Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, I mean,
there's nothing else left.
Right?
2 out of 2.
Do nothing else in your career. You're perfect.
Yeah. No notes.
Well, Susie returns alone to the academy, following a vision of her dreams to the hidden compartment and further into a grand underground chamber / basement where the company, Blanc, and a wheezy MARKOS wait for her. Sarah is carved open as Klemperer watches prone nearby. A ritual begins between the coven and the company. Susie says she's ready. MARKOS tells Susie that there will be nothing left of her, but Susie says that this was what she came for. MARKOS is excited that it is happening, but Blanc senses something is different. But before Blanc can stop what is happening, MARKOS nearly decapitates Blanc.
All right, I want to start here because I just to make sure everyone's on the same page. MARKOS is also played by
Yes.
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah.
Fair, sure,
So,
okay, all right, why not?
It's Christmas with the clumps, Marilee. I don't know what to tell you. I think the interview I read with Swinton was at this point in time, it was like, why not? We're just having fun now.
She was very involved in this film, like from the beginning, because she and Luca Guadagnino were such big fans of the original Suspiria. And like, honestly, if I was given the opportunity to play 3 vastly different characters, I probably would say like, fuck yeah, let me see if I can do it. You know,
Yeah.
I am not as good of an
and
actor as Tilda Swinton, so it probably would be very bad, but...
And I get to cackle. How many characters really get to cackle? I think you
And
always
she
say
does
yes
a
to
great
a cackle
in here.
She does a great cackle.
She also gets to do like some weird lip stuff.
Also, those sunglasses? Why?
The
sunglasses are so
one of-
important.
The sunglasses are a
The
moment.
sunglasses are a fit. One of the things I saw on Reddit was, why is MARKOS wearing sunglasses? And the top comment was, they are fierce. And you know what?
Yeah.
That is absolutely
It's
correct.
the reason why everybody still is wants her to be the head of the coven. It's the sunglasses for sure.
Yeah.
They were
Oh,
like,
yeah.
They go down. They
For
go down.
sure.
And they're like, we could use other leadership, and then they see her and go, "Fuck that fit. I just can't."
that fit, that vibe.
She's naked for everything but her sunglasses,
You
and I'm
know,
into that.
she is just very comfortable in her skin, I guess. Or maybe if she puts, I mean, she's trying to get into other things. I'm thinking like maybe if she puts clothes on, her skin just like sloughs off. So she's like, I have to be naked. The only type of fashion I get are my sunglasses.
And there's a line of dialogue earlier that she's been afflicted with many diseases. I think that's where the grotesquerie is supposed to be coming from. I feel like it's a little bit to show like there's a difference between her and Susie, and there's almost like this purity versus evil thing, which is just a little ham-fisted for me. But the performance is so gleefully now we're almost into camp.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting.
I feel like it's its own version of like hagsploitation and kind of owning that. And I accept it then because I think hagsploitation is a very important part of folklore. I think it's an important part of witch history. So taking it and making it your own inherently makes it more interesting to me. And I will be more willing to accept it if I think that's what they're doing. Now, do you think they could have gone farther with that? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Honestly, here's my problem with MARKOS. And again, hagsploitation, I'm in. I'm on the record very into it. Here's the thing. I wish they'd given more of an explanation, something, as what exactly is happening with MARKOS, because the prosthetics do not tell a story here, and they absolutely need to. Like, she's got a weird baby hand growing out of her shoulder. Her whole body is, like, twisted and blackened, and, like, was there a fire? They said that she has diseases. What kinds of diseases? It's clearly not leprosy. She's growing parts, not losing them.
Yeah.
So like,
It's
what
anti-leprosy.
is happening? I wish that like they've had so many scenes discussing MARKOS in the coven. They could have just dropped in a line of dialogue about something, because they said that like earlier in the movie that MARKOS has claimed that she is Mother Suspiria, but like that can't be true because of this, that, and the other thing. If they had said that after claiming this, like magic was punishing her somehow, or like she fucked up a ritual and like that's why her body is like this, and that's why she's twisted, and that's why she's dying. Anything to explain
Marilee?
what has happened would have been really helpful for me.
Oh no, Marilee, the monkey's paw curls. Here comes another scene with Klemperer reading from the journal of being like, and yes, her magic caused her to grow a baby. I'm till
Mother MARKOS went to Los Alamos, New Mexico during the same time as the Manhattan Project testing.
Yes.
Now we see.
Now we
No,
see.
I totally agree with that, Mary Lou, though, because I feel like we know this just from like other movies about witchcraft, that the intentionality behind your spells means something. And there is the whole threefold that's in like modern witchcraft too, where the intentionality behind your spells are really important because it's going to come back on you. So if you put something negative out, even though like negativity isn't really a thing, it's more intentionality, but like that's going to come back and it could potentially harm you. That's why you don't do harmful spells, or you shouldn't be doing harmful spells, because it's mean. And also like it very selfishly will definitely come back on you. And I think that's what they're attempting to do in this. Again, I'm here for the vibes, so I'm like, give me those sunglasses, I'm happy. But I totally think that criticism is really valid. And in a movie where they gave us so much information and also not enough, this is something they should have given us. We needed that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I feel like this is all symptomatic of where we are now, which is, as David described, we slow down to a crawl, then we're at 2 times speed. We're at like 7 times speed right now. Everything that we have been waiting patiently for is now coming to a head. We have MARKOS, who is this disgusting, like, corruptive blob of cancerous magic. Like, then we have everything that is about to happen. Everything is now like the Death Star is blowing up. Everything is happening all at once. It is like the 2 hours, 15 minutes that you spent listening to people whisper things to each other. Boom. Now it's all exploding.
And like, we didn't talk about it, but if you have not seen the movie, you have to understand that there are like 8 million dancers in the middle of this huge, gigantic room. And like, there are 3 stories of like pyramid, like cheerleader style people enacting like this weird birth looking thing with a bunch of naked people like writhing around on the floor. It's so wild. And
I love it.
None of that is important. We do not talk about it in the scene description at all.
All in a basement.
Yes.
That's why you're on the list. That's why you're on the list. Suspiria.
All in a basement. But that looks like a basement party that I don't know if I want to be a part of it, but I'm glad it exists and I could watch it because it's everything about it is so I think that this right here is very intentional. The things that they're doing, the fact that all of the coven members are wearing their hair outfits because, you know, hair was traditionally a very important part of magic and still is to this day. The fact that the covens, like, I don't know, that the dancers are all completely nude and doing this like dance for them, but the coven's not participating in it is so intentional and particular. I really like the scene. Plus, it's just like a vibe. It is. It's just a vibe to look at. Like, oh my God, look at what is this? It's great. I mean, that's how I feel like that's the only way I can describe it. Like, trying to explain this scene to a person who hasn't seen it, I'm like,
impossible.
I don't know.
Impossible.
Yeah. So MARKOS tells Susie that to accept her, she must put down the woman who bore her. On that farm in Ohio, we see the infirmed woman stop breathing. In the chamber, another death has come. A dark figure bows to Susie. MARKOS demands to know who Susie is, but Susie asks her, "To whom were you anointed?" When MARKOS says Mother Suspirium, Susie says, "I am she." The figure of death touches MARKOS, who shrivels and dies.
She deflates. I mean, it's like you punctured a balloon.
Yeah.
Truly.
And it's wild. It's wild.
I love it.
It is the way that everything begins to turn red. There's as we see Susie's birth mom dying on the farm in Ohio, we can also see like a clawed shadow passing over her hand, which I think is meant to be this death figure that rises up. And Britt, is this the woman who was Susie's mother? That is
I love that.
I didn't know that until earlier this morning when I was getting ready for this at like 6 a.m. I was like, oh, there's an interview with Luca Guadagnino I've never listened to. I'll listen to it while I put some blush on. And he mentioned it because they were talking about Tilda Swinton playing multiple characters. He said, well, she's not the only one, and goes into that this woman also played Death, which I think is such a great choice. And I'm okay that we don't know that until like, I didn't know it was her mother, but it makes sense. Like, it does make absolute sense. And I think that it's such a, God, I love the makeup in this. Like, I think that is such a cool iteration of Death. She looks terrifying. I don't want her showing up in my corner, but also I'd like her in my corner if someone was coming after me, right? Like,
Well,
Yeah,
I love
totally.
how completely feminine she remains.
Yeah.
Like, I think that it's very easy to make Death masculine or to give masculine features even to a femme character to give them that Death look. I think that's very common in places I've seen women play the Death role. But this is a woman at her core, and that I think and a mother. If the audience is meant to be a little bit more in the know, I love the mother connection, and I think that selling that a little bit more works for me.
Yeah.
Well, Death does walk the chamber to each of the coven who voted MARKOS, causing their heads to explode, but sparing those who voted Blanc. Susie / Mother Suspiria watches in ecstasy, eventually pulling her chest open to reveal her beating heart and saying, "I am the mother." She goes to each of the tortured girls, Patricia, Olga, and Sarah, and grants their wishes of death, peaceful and quick compared to those of the coven.
This is the moment where I get really, really sad because when she goes around to Patricia and Olga, she just asks, "What would you like?" And they let her know. And then with Sarah, she calls her sweet girl, which is what really, really, like, I get chills thinking about it. And then even her death, she like cradles her on the ground. There is such affection between Mother Suspiriorum and Sarah, and that's why I feel like she really was her anchor. That's why she continues to be Susie even as Mother Suspiriorum, and it's because of Sarah.
Yeah. Like, again, I've kind of been pitching this whole recording, like, that Susie knows that she's Mother Suspiriorum the whole time, and that she has come here on purpose to deal with MARKOS and the coven, right?
Yeah.
And like that's my interpretation. That doesn't have to be yours. But I do feel like the connection between Susie and Sarah was real. This was like Sarah was her chance at like her better angels, and her like comforting her in the end is really lovely. And I wish that we had like a real romance between them, because I think that really would have explored that relationship even further.
Yeah. Well, and I think I casually mentioned this earlier, but the idea of giving the gift of this freedom to a lover versus giving it to someone who was just a companion and friend carries a much heavier weight. And I would have felt a lot more emotionally impacted by this if that had been a more developed, a deeper relationship, a sexual relationship.
Yeah.
I mean,
if you want to keep Anka, this is a great parallel between Sarah and Anka, these loves that were lost because of fascist violence.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, that's a great point, Marilee.
Totally.
That marries that other theme in really nicely, since it will be coming back in a little bit.
Yeah, but unfortunately, can't have that.
How about the explosions?
Oh
How
my
about
God.
the head explosions?
It's all about the explosions, and it's all about Tom York striking again in a really again.
This
it's
did not work for me.
Yeah, it's a beautiful song.
It worked.
It worked. It worked for me.
This is a song I want to make out to, not see heads explode to.
Why not both?
Why not both? You know
why
what?
not both?
I am a passionate lover, so Britt, you do know what I get done. It just felt straight. I didn't hate it. I actually loved the music, and I felt I guess what I'll say is the tone is right. Like, I know music theory, but just having verbal singing felt so strange to me in this moment. I think that's what it was. If it had just been, even if it was just in a fucking foreign language, I think maybe I would have been happier.
Yeah, have it be in German.
Or you could even do the Enochian language. Like, we could go real esoteric with it.
Yeah.
But I like the song. I do like I don't want anyone to say that I hate the song. I like Radiohead. I like Tom York. I like the song.
I think you're lying. Just kidding.
David, prove it. Okay, I was 18 in 1990, so
He still has his copy of the Bends on CD.
Wow. Okay, that's aging me a little too far, Taylor.
I just think that it's a beautiful song. Baby, what are we doing here?
I think it fits though, because it's a very elegiac song to me. It feels like a song that's playing as death is happening, but not death in the sense that, like, yes, there is violence going on, but I think that makes it discordant with the music, and that works for me as an intentional thing. And then here we are talking about that Susie is giving Patricia, Olga, and Sarah relief in death, and that to me comes off as them being very sad and tired and ready to let go. And Susie she's a violent person. She is capable of great violence like a mother can be, but she is also capable of care and love. And I think that is what Susie is, as Mother Superiorum, is also able to do. And the music is illustrating that.
I agree.
And I think the fact that it's Tom York singing it as well gives it more of that. This is an elegy to the loss of these people.
Maybe it could have been a woman.
No, I don't think that Tom York is the problem. Because I agree with what Tyler's saying, and I can kind of see it because the performance and the last lines of dialogue also sell that, which are keep dancing, this is beautiful, but it's about sort of her performance of saying the line is almost somber. It is almost what you would say at a funeral. And I am coming around to the beauty on that. I
did have an issue with Tom York being the one who did the music for this the first time I saw this, only because I thought we could have had a femme performer do this, and I wonder what that soundtrack would have been like. I have come around on this soundtrack. I think it's great now, and I do genuinely like it at the end. But it was something that I struggled with, especially because we had Tilda Swinton playing a male character because Guadagnino didn't want to have that character through the male gaze. I was like, okay, so then what is the choice behind this music then? Why choose this performer to do it? And honestly, I don't know if I have an answer for that, but I just know I like it, and so I'm okay with it now. Like,
it might just be Tom York really fucking loves Suspiria.
Yeah,
and
it is
that's
very
good enough for Luca.
Yep.
Or Guadagnino was called Annie DeFranco and she didn't return his call, and he was like, well, gotta fucking make a movie, so let's just what's my next CD? Oh, Radiohead, got it. Before Tyler reads the next scene, I just want to say this is a great time to stop the movie. To me, I think this is an excellent end of a film, and this would have tripled my star rating because this is perfect as is. But Tyler, tell us what happens next.
Well, let me go ahead and read the part that David thinks is shit. So outside, one of the matrons shows Klemperer to the door and sends him home. He is disoriented and confused, driven to a state of madness from what he has witnessed. At the academy the next morning, the company arrives for rehearsal. Tanner tells them that Blanc has left the company. The coven is in the chamber cleaning up. We see that Blanc lives somehow. Klemperer is in bed at home. Susie / Mother Superiorum appears in his room and sits down with him. She apologizes for what her daughters did to him. She tells him the truth of what happened to Anka. She takes away the memories of the women who led to where he is, telling him that we need guilt and shame, but not yours. He seizes and seemingly forgets everything. The film ends with a modern-day high-speed rail and people on cell phones as the camera zooms in on the engraving of the country home of A and J.
Okay, so I mentioned to Britt earlier that I had a laughing moment. I had a comedy moment, and it was putting Tilda Swinton back together and her breathing was funny.
Love it. I don't know how they did it, but great.
Yeah, it felt like inappropriately funny. Like it just felt like mismatched comedy to me in that moment. But there we are.
I was kind of here for it, to be honest. I was like, yeah, sure, why not? Mother Superiorum was just like exploding heads with the Angel of Death. So Angel of Death could probably do some magic on that neck.
Maybe the way that the coven works is they always have to have an aging Tilda Swinton who's kind of falling apart in the basement.
There you go. Yeah.
I like that idea.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point.
She's definitely going into that basement, though. Like, she's got to at this point.
I do like seeing the coven have dreams together. It almost seems like, the company now seems like the coven. And that I actually would have been okay with that scene being there too. I guess it's the Klemperer of it all that kind of puts me off. Because Mother Superiorum comes to sort of give him the deal with Anka as a apology, maybe, for
it feels like an apology.
We learned that it was a visiting officer who made them take a census. His name was Mr. Berger. That is the name of the client that was first being seen in the film. So it also feels like a little bit of bookending here. I think that what this ultimately is trying to say is that guilt and shame will not be action. and what the country needs is action to get over fascism, to prevent fascism from happening again. It all feels so disparate from what just happened that it so took away from the climax for me. And I really ended up having a bad taste in my mouth with the film. I liked the zoom in on the initials. That was and beautiful. And I love the idea that modern day, you can't erase the history that existed. That's fine. I get it. It's art. But I just, something didn't work here for me with Klemperer.
I don't think I had much of a problem with it. I did think it was far too long, and also just kind of it did feel a little bit unnecessary, because I think we've already seen that in action in the prior scene, where Susie she's no longer allowing herself to be a pawn, and instead is enforcing the change that she would like to see,
right,
albeit on a scale within her coven. I also don't necessarily think that Susie is taking away his memories as a kindness. I'm not sure it's out of kindness for her, but almost out of, this is unnecessary because your guilt did not do anything to help you.
Right.
It did not do anything to help other people. And you actually inserted yourself into something that was harmful because you refused to let go of this guilt. So I'm just going to take it away so that you don't do that again. That's kind of how I read it, but it took me a little while to get there. And I also don't know if that's even something that I would say is there's really any type of evidence for in the movie. It's just the vibes of Susie I'm getting,
right,
you know,
right.
Like there are other things that I think we've all said that it's like, no, there's evidence for this earlier in the film within the context of what we're being shown. That is just me being like, if I wanted this to work better, this is how I'm going to interpret it. So I'm choosing to live my truth.
I love that.
In that. But I also think that we could cut this and it would have been just as powerful. Like,
yeah.
Like
I really do like that reading though, Britt. I like that is so diametrically opposed to how I read it, where it was closer to what David was saying about just like, well, this is meant to be kind of like a kindness. But I feel like the fact that we have such opposing reads on this finale, as we've had such different reads of so much that's happened in this movie, it really is just an encapsulation of what this movie is, which is, it's a very complex piece of art, and art is interpretive and subjective. And I think that there is no easy answer for pretty much anything that's happened thus far. And I think that we have done a wonderful job analyzing so much of it, but it is still kind of like just a canvas in which you can see what you want to see from this movie. And I think that's a strength, and I think that's also something that's worth challenging.
Here's my I'm gonna be brutally and 100% honest about this film. My final thoughts as I was watching the end of this movie, especially the first time, was, man, I guess I'm too stupid to get this film. Because like I truly was like, I don't understand how we're supposed to be tying back in the idea of fascism with all of this witch stuff. And it just did not knit together for me in such a way. It was like, I guess I wasn't paying attention well enough earlier. I just don't get it.
Marilee, I'm going to stop you right there, because believe it or not, until this conversation that we've been having, I was in the exact same boat as you. I was just like, how does the fascism tie into this? I'm trying really hard to figure it out, but it feels so like disconnected, that this was an actual criticism that I have with this movie, is that the plots and themes feel so disparate, and that's part of the stew, and it's difficult to find the connection between these ingredients. But like having those conversations actually helped quite a bit with that. And like I feel like this is like, for anyone at home that might have seen Suspiria and been like really turned off by it or into it but very confused, I think that, like, not to toot our own horns, but I think like our conversation today, I think is going to do a good job of helping to kind of elucidate that and clear up some of the mystery, because like it or not, this is the movie that we have. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. And we've done our best to really kind of dig in and see, what is this movie trying to demonstrate? What is this movie trying to tell us?
I totally agree. I think, and again, I already have said before, I love this movie, and I get it. It's a hard nut to crack. It's a hard film to like watch, and to even like, there are times where I'm like, I don't really want to think about it. Like, can I just not think about it? And I think this film isn't for everybody, and that's okay. But if you choose to watch it, do it at least 3 times because you will get something more out of it as you continue on. I mean, it's a 2.5-hour movie and we've been talking about it for 3.5 hours.
But what I'll say is what we've learned, that's a good sign. If we don't get to the runtime of a film in our discussion of it, that's usually a bad sign.
And like I do think that David was right on the money at the very top of the episode where he was like, this is a movie where you go after to watch it and talk about it with a bunch of your friends. I think that is vital to understanding the point of this film.
Yeah, and other art is like that, and one of the forms of art that is most like that is dance. Dance is not an art form that you typically leave and go, I understood all of that.
And I'll be honest, a lot of the time during the dancing scene, as I was watching, it was like, I don't know enough about dance to really get what's happening here. I guess it looks good, but
Before we move into summary, post-credit scene?
Yeah, it's just kind of happens.
Okay, so
Britt.
the post-credit scene was technically supposed to be she's not looking at anything or like a hand gesture for anything. This was technically supposed to be a trilogy. This is supposed to show that there is more that's going to happen, but this was such a failure that we will never get that. We will never know what was coming.
Was Nick Fury just off screen and she was like,
okay,
I'd like to be part of the adventure.
Mother Suspiria will return in Suspiria 2.
Actually, you know what? I would be very interested to hear what they had planned because, like, you do have these other 2 mothers who are lost to time. So, like, I think you could do something with those other 2 people. It would be interesting to see the differences between Mother Suspiria with her size versus like the other 2 who have like these very specific names and meanings. It could have been cool. Drop your notes for what you were gonna do because I think I would like to see it.
I want it. I do think some of it had to deal with MARKOS in like 1902 creating the coven, which I'm like, okay, I don't really need a prequel.
God, I'm so sick and tired.
What I want my mothers. Yeah.
That'd be cool. 1902 would be an interesting era to explore. Is the thing. I don't love a prequel either, Marilee. I just obviously have watched a lot of Conjuring and nonsense other things.
Okay, but Annabelle or like, is it Annabelle Creation was actually okay.
That's what we
Annabelle?
said. I know.
Okay, Annabelle Creation pretty good. Annabelle Comes Home way better.
Oh my God, Marilee.
So I'm saying, why bother with the prequel? Just continue the story.
Eddie,
gotta see it. I still gotta see it.
Anyway, I do wonder if some of the other things that we brought up, like the lipstick, or even some of the dreams, maybe there would have been, if this was a planned out experience, maybe some of that was meant to hearken to things that then couldn't be explored in other films. Because I will say, Guadagnino does seem like a director who, if he's going to do this, would put some crumbs for us to follow through. So maybe I will withdraw my criticism of the lipstick if it was meant to be like Suspiria 2, the lipstick returns or whatever.
I have no idea how the lipstick would come in
in
any way. Unless it was like, we need this specific lipstick for a ritual because it has lead in it. I don't know.
You don't understand. It's like the original pass of The Hobbit where Bilbo gets a ring and it's just a ring that makes you invisible. And then Tolkien was like, wait, I can make a 3-part
I'm going to be honest.
Lord of the something. Oh, I know.
My thought for the lipstick, and it's not bared out in the film at all, which is why I did not bring it up. But like that one matron who kills herself, my only thought was that when Susie stole the lipstick, it was her lipstick, and then she used that as a connection to kill her. But we don't see any of that, so that's just me speculating wildly. So I thought it was
vibes.
It's vibes.
Vibes. I accept. This is now canon in my head. I love that.
Perfect.
Love
well
that.
done, Marilee.
Well, we have kind of just finished off this conversation, but I must ask, how did we feel about the 2018 film Suspiria in terms of horror or queerness after our whole long conversation? And do we have any other final thoughts for this episode?
I genuinely, and this is going to sound like a big read, and I'm sorry, I genuinely feel like this movie would have been a lot better, like maybe one of the greats of all time, if they had just taken the time to do one more pass through on that script to tighten some shit up, because I think that this movie didn't need to be 2.5 hours long, and it could have been, we could have cut a lot of things, or rearranged things.
We could have cut off 30 minutes.
Easy.
I think we
Yeah.
could have cut off 30 minutes and been okay.
We could have cut off 30 minutes and also had a really lovely moment of queer
Mhm.
joy in the film.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I think that would have brought it up to like
Yeah.
5-star territory.
With a
for me.
heart.
Yeah.
Remove the whole Klemperer at the police
Yes.
station scene. Like, get rid of
Yeah.
that. It doesn't
Get
really
rid of
do that
that.
much. And replace it with the tender love scene.
Yes, I really do love this film. I just think the themes throughout it with like especially just the dance of it all, it really draws me in. But I am the target audience. Like that is
Yeah.
this witchcraft and dance. I'm really thrilled and happy with. I wish some of the themes, especially around our characters who are queer coded but not actually, you know, we don't know for sure. I would have loved for that to be fleshed out because I think it has a place in this movie and should be a part of this movie and is really fascinating and interesting and makes the coven even more dynamic. So I wish we had a bit more of that and less of Klemperer being useless.
Agreed. I do think at the end of our conversation, I feel better about the queerness in this film than I did maybe going into this conversation. So well done, team. But ultimately, I mean, I think that when you look for people to include as part of your life, if you're the kind of person who doesn't like pickles, you need to find a person who loves pickles so that when you got to a sandwich, they can get your pickle and they are very joyous about it. And Britt, I am happy to have you in my life as someone who likes this film because there's more of this film for you anytime we go together.
I accept. No, I know this is a hard sell, so I just appreciate the opportunity to come on and discuss this movie. I learned so much through this conversation with you three, so I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to hang. It's been really fun.
I genuinely feel like I didn't want to watch this movie a second time. I liked it enough, but it just felt like it was so much happening, and I couldn't read it. But now that I have had this conversation, I want to actually jump in and take a third crack at this thing because I think it's very interesting. I think it's ups. I think it's downs. I think because it is so polarizing, I find that very interesting and rewatchable. David, however, is going to put this in the Disney vault forever.
Nope. I'm gonna edit this 3-hour, 40-minute podcast and then never think of this again.
Until I just randomly bring it up. I'll just like send you a GIF or something.
We're bringing you back for a 15-minute short film.
Perfect. We'll still talk for 3 hours. What are you talking about?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, duh, of course.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening to this episode. And if you have hung on this long, you're like a real one. We really appreciate you. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like us to send you dreams, you can channel us on Instagram and Blue Sky if you're coded pod. And Britt, genuinely, thank you so much for joining us. You are a delight. We loved having you. Where can people find you and what you're working on?
Yeah. So I don't have the socials up for my new podcast, but that will be coming soon. So if you would like to find me, I'm under Britsby Hobnob on like everything. Because that's a name my sister once gave me and it's stuck forever.
Cute.
And also
Great.
it's she made a podcast about me going missing called Britsby's Final Bow and like my whole family was in it. It's hysterical. It's like so that's where it came from. And if you're looking for the podcast, we're under 1001 by 1. We really like chatting. I love chatting with people. So if you want a really weird, bizarre movie recommendation, hit me up because those are my favorite kinds. So
Yeah.
this has been amazing. Thank you all so much.
Thank
What an
you.
inviting, awesome space to be a part of. So
Aw.
I appreciate it.
Aw, we were so happy to have you.
Well, and if you would like to show your support for the podcast, you can join the Bats on our Belfry and subscribe to our Patreon at patreon.com/faircodedpodcast. You can show your appreciation at one of 3 levels with accompanying bonus content starting at the $3 level. And of course, this month we did the kind of ridiculous, kind of silly, but people seem to like it, Hear Me Out episode where we pitch each other things that didn't really make sense to cover on pod, and yet we voted on whether or not we should cover them. So you should listen to that, and maybe you'll find out something that we'll be covering later this year.
Fear Coded is a proud part of the Glitterjaw Queer Podcast Collective. If you'd like to listen to more queer media podcasts, check out the full roster of shows at glitterjaw.com.
And join us next week as we have more visions of things to come in the James Wan, Kayla Cooper collaboration, Malignant. But for now, we will simply say goodbye.
Bye.
MARKOS.
I mean, hands just make you look better.
I'm going to ask Caroline to work on your jumps with you.